I pledge
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I've all had a chance to look at the agenda. Any additions, corrections, or conflicts of interest? Not, the agenda stands approved as printed. Move on to the reading of the minutes.
June 23rd, 2026, the Board of Supervisors met at 9:00 a.m. with Craig Dozark, Chair presiding. Members present were Schultz, Mulbauer, Dozark, Hayden, and Rosberg. Minutes of the previous meeting were read and approved. On motion, the board recognized claims for the Public Health Department and approved claims for all other departments. The board approved the Clerk of Court fees for May 2026. The board approved the changes of wages for County Attorney's Office, Sheriff's Office, and Louise Galbraith, Veterans Affairs General Relief. The board approved the change of status for Amanda Dirks, part-time health aide for public health, Kelly Lemon-Steinkiller, full-time jailer, and Shannon Kamine, full-time jailer for the Sheriff's Office. A motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Schultz, to approve the notice of public hearing and the publication thereof related to the reclassification of F Avenue between 1131 F Avenue and 120th Street from an Area Service Road B to an Area Service Road A on July 7th, 2026 at 10:00 a.m. in the Board of Supervisors room. Motion was passed unanimously. At 10:00 a.m. as advertised, a motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Hayden, to open the public hearing regarding the budget amendment for fiscal year 25-26. Motion passed unanimously. There were no written or oral objections. A motion was made by Mulbauer, seconded by Hayden, to close the public hearing at 10:12 a.m. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Rosberg, to approve the following resolution. Resolution 2026-23, appropriations to departments. Voting aye, Schultz, Mulbauer, Dozark, Hayden, and Rosberg. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Rosberg, seconded by Schultz, to approve the comp time pay down to 40 hours. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Hayden, seconded by Schultz, to approve the Safety and Security Council bylaws. Motion passed unanimously. There was no discussion about the tax abatement for 407 4th Avenue in Vale, City of Vale paid. Sherry Nenemeyer, treasurer, had a discussion with the board about claims, end of year and first of next fiscal year. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Mulbauer, to approve the following resolution. Resolution 2026-20. A resolution designating the official physical posting location for public meetings and agendas for the Iowa Code Chapter 21 and House File 2490. Voting aye, Schultz, Mulbauer, Dozark, Hayden, and Rosberg. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Mulbauer, seconded by Hayden, to approve the fiscal year 2027 cybersecurity MOU. Motion passed unanimously. A motion was made by Schultz, seconded by Mulbauer, to approve the Verizon lease agreement, $1,550 through September 1st, 2029, and a 3% increase September 1st, 2030, and each year anniversary. Motion passed unanimously. The board had a discussion about a moratorium on data center permitting and construction. On motion duly seconded, the board adjourned at 11:37 a.m. Agendas for the next meeting are posted and available at the courthouse on Fridays at 4:30 p.m. preceding the next meeting.
What is that time? Read that again, a little later time. That we adjourned.
11:37.
Then after that, what did you say?
11:37.
Oh, 11:37.
Yeah.
Okay.
11:37.
I thought, I just heard 7 a.m.
That's why I thought.
11:37
Okay, I just
a.m.
missed that. Okay, thank you. Any additions or corrections? The minutes, if not, they stand approved as read. Thank you. Move on to supervisor reports. Let's see what Dave's up to.
But he ain't doing much anyway.
Not really. Just kind of leisure time. No. Yeah, busy week. We had our I know, side note, had our Manila Rough Riders Rodeo Sunday. It was a very good turnout. Nice community event. Checkers and the Saddle Club do a really good job at putting that on. Whole deal. We didn't have Kyle down there to do
Did you
pickup.
participate?
I did,
In what competition?
the senior class.
The senior class?
And I did have to take ibuprofen the next day. because it was so hard.
What is the senior class required to do a rodeo like that?
All the same event, pretty much all the same events. It is 18 and on up, but barrel fold, spears, Hershey pears, flag race, a bunch of different events. Chad Shepherd and I have been running the Hershey pears for probably 25 years now, since we were little kids. But it's nice that they do that, put that on in Manila. Good little turnout.
Oh, when our little town that I grew up in had a town rodeo like that where, you know, participants were the town members. And as a kid, then I was 9, I think, and so you were kind of borderline where you could either ride sheep or they had some ponies that you could do a fucking Bronco pony. And I'm like, you know, I'm 9 now, I'm gonna do the pony thing. And kid before me got bumped off backwards and a hoof caught the kid in the side of the face. Bleeding, and he was hurt. I know my mom saw the petrified look on my face, and she was like, Craig, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. I go, okay, I'm not. That was the start and the end of my rodeo career right there.
Needless to say, you've never rode a buck.
Never rode one. No, never have.
I did have Kyle, remember that one year? Kyle was,
I was an idiot, I was.
Kyle was my pickup partner one year. He had to stand on a tire and I ran down and he jumped on the back and away we went.
How long ago was that?
10 years ago.
Yeah,
We used
we
to
were a little younger.
actually in the
You on
old,
the board then?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
you know, actually in the cavalry training manual, there is downrider pickup and riderless horse are 2 training things. And what you're talking about there is called the downrider pickup, where you'd swing around and grab it. It was in our show presentation that we would do for the public, you had that, and then you also brought a horse down with a rider and handed it off. And they did that Roy Rogers bout on the run. That stuff. Anyway, that was what I did in the Army.
But actual business, I did stop and talk to the grading crew there on Kent's Road. Thought they'd be finished up today. I know they'll probably talk about that too, but it looks like it's really coming together. They moved a lot of dirt. He said yesterday it got a little bit dry. But they thought it was packing in good and kind of reshape that road so it's not so dangerous coming up onto the highway. They get a lot done fast. Just dump trucks and excavator. They don't mess around either. I need to see them in action. They thought today they'd be finished up and moved on and hoping it. They were kind of looking at the rain as well. They thought, well, if we can get this done, and just if it does rain, great. And in a good spot with that project. And then Jared did give me. He just wanted to confirm that it's on our agenda for bargaining units contract that we had for 3 years, and we agreed to $1.20 that was right. It's on our, it is right. I know Ben,
We spent it on a new note concern.
Yep.
On that dollar.
and Ben put in a 3%, but not what we agreed to in a 3-year contract, because it was $1.20 a year.
You did $1.
Yeah, we did $1 amount. But he just wanted to make sure that we had it right.
Okay.
The other thing happening today or with ECI, I don't know if you got to hear about Unity Stevens, the chair. They're doing a listening session with all the area directors and kind of getting a feel for their concerns and actually maybe you got to read what she sent out. Headed to tomorrow's listening and sharing PDF slides and plan uses structure for our conversation. Our review 21 directors' responses before creating site. Tomorrow's purpose is to test early themes, identify stabilization needs, and better understand what should come forward for public state board discussion in August. So I'm glad to hear that she's reaching out to the directors to kind of get the temperature of what's happening on the ground. And then take that back to the state board so we can.
We've appreciated that from the very beginning, how they have tried to, and I'm just gonna say, learn from their mistakes and talk to the people that are really administering these programs. And we've had so many meetings trying to throw it all together, and even for us going from 3 counties to 11, a lot of difference. We have just little short meetings every now and again, just to kind of try to update and make sure everybody knows what direction it's all going. It's really been kind of challenging to get it all, some things that people didn't think about. But I was looking for an email that they now have a sheet of what services are available, where they're at, and just kind of to help. Because my thing is, I always say, who do we call? You know, who are we supposed to call? It used to be, you know, we would know who we could call. So there, I was looking for it here. I might have deleted it because I'm trying to not have so many emails that I don't need, but maybe this is crisis centers, yeah. Kind of tells you what's all available, you know, it's a nice little set out, everybody can have to kind of direct you. So never saw that with mental health.
I do think it's very, very important. I'm glad that Unity is doing this because
Yep.
a lot of times we don't get to hear directly from the state or from the local area boards. And I'm like, you know, if you're on our ECI board,
Yep.
and I get to hear, you know, you tell them, keep me filled in. But you know,
Yeah, so I think they're doing
Nice
a
there.
really good job of kind of telling you what these services are, where they're at, how you get a hold of them. That comes from people saying who to get a hold of, we need some guidance, you know, and so they got it nailed down here, so appreciate it.
so hopefully those go
It's actually-
well and we can get a lot of good feedback.
Now, there's gonna be pamphlets and all that stuff out that they'll be putting around, so. I think it's very, I went to that one meeting with Kim Finner. It's just kind of nice to realize that the people that are working on the ground, they have an opportunity to tell the people that are administering it how the concern. So it's good.
And every area is a little bit different. Some,
Absolutely.
they all have different needs and challenges, and
Crawford
that's
County,
why the local area boards are so important because they realize that.
absolutely. They have to put all the thoughts together and come up with a good product.
Anything else, Dave?
I get to go to Jefferson tomorrow for a cover crop field day.
With what organization is that with?
Campaign.
Well, that's an important thing, I think. Want to say moving forward, but I mean, for the future of agriculture and our water deal in Iowa, I mean, that's just go through that technology.
I went to one last week up in Sanborn, Iowa. Actually, it's kind of small world. The farm we were on is the Gettings, and we used to raise a ton of strawberries there. And Dave getting married to my first cousin, Ann Hall, BC Hall's older sister.
Well, I mean, Dave, I don't know if you can call as big as your family. You're bound to run into the first cousin in the state.
But the event up there was a field day with Aaron Allens, and he's running a cow herd up there, and they're doing a lot of rotational grazing. He had the cow collars on, where in a field without fence, he can move them just by typing into his GPS. And herd over section on it, just a lot of cover crops and different things they were doing, and actually, like some of the fields, there's a lot of organic farming up there, but they had one of those burners running where they're burning weeds instead of using chemicals. It's kind of neat seeing that go through the field. But they've been taking some of the corn and bean production.
Run by a person? or
It was on a tractor. It's like a big tank, and then on the back, it go down the rows, and in between the rows, burn off weeds.
Oh, okay.
They've been pulling up there some of the corn and beans out of rotation and getting into cover crops and oats and different things for rotational grazing and utilizing some programs. And they had Iowa State there and South Dakota University, and it's kind of neat to see different practices and how they work together.
Be interesting. I mean, cattle prices are at all-time record highs. So It'd be interesting if they are at record lows. Now,
Right.
how does that rotational grazing, do we even want to do that when cattle are such a low price and corn is high, beans are high?
Everything.
Right, it ebbs and flows, exactly.
Just has a little bit of what I've been up to.
Thank you for sharing a little bit of what you've been up to. Gene,
Oh dear. You know, the week was really busy, Kyle. I had to even review if this was Wednesday or what day. But did a little mud road interview out there, so it was a good meeting out there, I think.
235th road closed, road open debate. So
Yeah,
north of town, section of road that some improvements were made on the road by a farmer, and then another farmer wasn't necessarily happy with what had happened, so.
we had all owners out there and it came to a good,
Ben was there with you?
absolutely, and
Ben and
Tim.
Tim and
Yep.
all,
All,
Tim and I, and
yeah, but it was mud. I want to make sure that we realized that it was right after the rain and the road was not, I was under the impression that we'd possibly stand on the highway and look down on it. I don't know why. I knew for sure we we're going to drive on it. But then I realized there was no way to get down there without, my shoes had this, they looked like snow. I had to take them off and put them in the back of the pickup so I wouldn't even get
So
them.
you weren't wearing high heels?
No, it was not high heels, and I was thinking of the mud shoes I do own, but it was hilarious how dirty and how much mud. I can hardly pick them up. We made it. It was all good. Otherwise, what else did I have? Visited
So
with,
was there a decision made then,
yes,
or
a resolution, I would call it, just what
an
the
understanding?
I understand, memorandum of understanding what the expectations are. There's a low spot in there that one thought was made worse, and one of the owners that use it all the time said, I think it's better, and so it was an interesting little conversation, but I think all the right people were in the
Okay.
right place. The only comical thing about it was how muddy that road was. It
it's
was.
a unique road too, it's got a very narrow right of way. I think instead of 66 foot, it's only 44. And somehow that road was petitioned back in the day. All the land is on, it's not split down the center.
Oh.
It's all on. So there's some uniqueness to that road too that made it more of a discussion. So,
It's actually a road that you drive past every day and you don't even really, because it says road closed. And so you don't, but people need access to the back.
Yep.
So, yeah, I was happy with the resolve and everybody did what they had to do. But otherwise, a lot of conversations about data centers, kind of, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that take you through one and let you see exactly how they work. And so for giggles and fun, I watched a lot of those just to see what they look like, aerial views and inside the inner workings of it and the peak. Yeah.
Did you have a glass of wine while you watched?
No, I did not. I did not. I watched them bright and early in the morning. So, but I did learn a lot, and that. So I had conversations with people that had reached out to me over to just really have a better feeling about that. We can talk about that next time. Had some conversations with public health about the way things are going. Our next meeting isn't until July, and so we just kind of had a little update. Otherwise, have a meeting Thursday night with Region 12.
Right.
You should too.
I do, but we will be in Florida with the kids.
All right, well, I'll bring back lots of notes and I'll grab your little packet for you.
I should have ran for governor. I don't have time for a vacation.
Yeah.
There better sneak one in.
What else? Yeah, otherwise it was, but the week went really fast. It seemed like every day there was something going on and to be continued, I guess. Unless you can think of someplace else we were that I forgot about.
well, I was asking you if we met on the road last week or is that 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
So,
and I was even trying to think if I had a meeting with Annette, because I feel like I did. But it was a short one there. We just call these little short meetings just to kind of, I can't, so it must not have been too important. So I will Yield my time.
Okay, thank you. Kyle?
Well, no official meetings last week, but like Gene said, we did meet out the dirt road and did talk to Ben about the claims. About how they, and he's just, there's normal claims that happen annually about this time with the gravel haul and stuff of that nature, so it wasn't out of the ordinary, it wasn't additional spending or anything like that, just normal claims coming due this time of year. And then, yellow smoke, I don't know if anybody's been getting phone calls about that, they're in the process of upgrading the electric, because 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, they must have had a major meltdown. So Mid-American's been out there plowing new power in. And then last week, the contractor apparently don't believe in one call, so he's hitting our water line.
Oh, no.
So there for a couple days, not all day, but they were out of water and electric at the campground, so.
So the contractor's is not Mid-America.
It's a subcontractor for Mid-American.
Okay.
But I think, from what I gathered, either yesterday or today, they should have everything 100%.
So what caused the electrical problem? Is it just old equipment or are they?
I'm thinking is what kind of perspective that campground was built in the early 80s. I'm guessing they had no idea that come 2026, everybody would have a 50 amp hookup camper. So I'm assuming it's a combination of old and probably overtasked wiring was causing some of the stuff, so.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So unfortunately, just gonna happen in one of the hottest, busiest times of the campground. Without doing this electrical upgrade, I mean,
So Mid-America's got the electrical for Yellowstone, huh?
yeah,
It's not.
We should bring in one of their maps to show you what that territory for each electric provider looks like. It makes a gerrymandered political map look normal.
Look normal.
Oh, at home, I got Mid-American at my hog barn, just a mile and a half away, it's what called. Yeah, well, it's just a beast.
Yep.
Oh, Whitco's got the farther west one, or further east one, further east one. Okay, gotcha.
oh, other than that, with the data center talk. That's later on.
Yep.
Water, every farmer wants to talk about why we didn't get any water from the good Lord, so.
Of what?
From the good Lord
Oh, okay.
and the heat. Corn's liking it.
Rose overnight.
You say, you could probably stand outside the last couple of nights and listen to it pop.
What do they call it, we're in a heat dome? It's
Yeah.
brutal out there.
What the heck did I read that an acre of corn will put out 4,000 to 5,000 gallons of water a day in the atmosphere.
Yep, evaporate.
So, that's why our humidity is just crazy right now.
I mean, I think I mentioned that at this meeting before, but being born in North Dakota, I had a cousin that told me that ever since they started planting corn, they've started getting severe thunderstorms, more tornadoes, and he blamed it on the corn. It's just because we're planting more corn.
Yeah,
Generates a lot of humidity.
they wanna help us out. They can quit planting corn.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's about all I have.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Unless I forget. I'll probably forget something.
So I'll just, before send it over to Ty, I guess I'll just let the public know that we did have a public hearing on our lawsuit with the sheriff last Friday with the judge. Both sides stated their case. The judge has 60 days to render a decision. So that's what we're now waiting on. Is any time within those 60 days, and it could even, Colin said that sometimes judges grant themselves an extension, and so it could be longer, but that's where the process is for that.
That's just on the dismissal ground.
Just on the dismissal ground, right? So I just want to make sure the public was up to date on that. I will say that we have an early childhood meeting today at noon. I have warned them. We have a pretty, I think, agenda that's full of discussion items that may take a little longer, so that's fine. And I'll just let everyone know also that when we get to the data center discussion, I do have someone zooming in that is a builder of data centers, been building them for 18 years, designing them, constructing them, working with the Metas, the Googles, those type of individuals, those type of companies. So he's going to be on around 10:30. So
He does the big ones.
he does the big ones. Some he's done some small ones. He's working currently one in Indiana that is 700 megawatts.
That sounds
Right.
You think staff will be here for that?
What's that?
You think staff will be here for that?
I guess I'm not sure. Is Steph coming today?
I see Sadie's on.
Okay,
I don't know. She might, I think she was coming, but
okay.
She can always
yeah,
send
she's
me-
got a schedule that scares you.
So it'd be nice to have all those people on board.
Yes, we'll be there. Thanks, Sadie.
Yes, we will be there too. All right, thank you. So with that, Ty, you have anything?
You know, I will finish from last week.
Okay,
I had a slow week this past week, so I mean, but I had a busy week that week before, very busy. I'll just go on to, what was it, on Thursday, I was in on the, it was a conference call thing you could get in on. And it was for the 7th Street revitalization, for the Brown. What do they call it? It's a federal grant thing to help you figure out ways to improve.
I sat in on that also
What is it, Brownfield? Thank you. All right, I figured it out.
until I was in my office by myself and I had somebody show up, so I had to leave early. But
Up and off, yeah. But I was pretty, I've heard a lot about them when I'm at NACO, on Rural Action Caucus stuff. We'll get briefings and stuff on different programs that are out there. And but this was the first, and I knew they were doing this because I went to a meeting. But, so I knew Dennison was engaged in it, but I wanted to kind of keep track of it because I would like to see how beneficial it was. And they actually gave me some really neat ideas. You remember they were talking about like a fun center, and then I drove by one. Anyway, I was driving through a town that I seen one, a fun center, and I wonder if that's what they were kind of talking about. It was a fun center, and it looked like pretty busy there, so I thought, well, that might be something fun. I don't know if it'd be something that would compete with something like Pizza Ranch or how. I mean, I don't know what's in there. So I don't know, but that was like what they would put for the old Playmore used to be area. That's kind of how they had it spec. And then some other things along in there. I was kind of surprised. One of the suggestions from their community survey said that another restaurant, but like a fast food, because apparently we don't have enough restaurants, but we only have really McDonald's and Burger King and Dairy Queen that are quote unquote fast food. Subway, yeah, we do have Subway. And so I don't know if they were just thinking something like an Arby's or something, a different palette when they're answering that survey. It didn't really say. He said burger joint. After losing our Italian restaurant, some other, I mean, if we had some restaurants just for variety, I mean, we probably eat some of the best Mexican food in the country right here in Dennison. But I mean, for some variety, I mean, we got, the pub, going to steak, or some different stuff like that, Chinese. But it's, anyway, it was really interesting, and they laid that out pretty well. And obviously now I think Dennison will try to pursue some of that cleaned up. The 7th Street is visible from 59, 141/30. Basically all our major highways can see 7th Street. So it is actually a good place to upgrade your community, plus maybe some business stuff that would start drawing people into the community a little bit more that are drive-by for whatever. So I appreciate what they're up to, and it looks like that brownfield thing was, it was a grant monies that did all this for them, so it was a good deal.
And I think moving forward, it's that, was some of that on Seventh Street owned by the city?
Some of
the
it,
property?
yeah, there was a couple, and that they had some different things they put on that. I don't remember for sure.
Because it'd take a joint agreement or venture between private sector and public sector to get something like that into fruition.
Oh, yeah, it'll take that, yeah. It'll be something where you'd have to recruit somebody in or go out and find the industry, but now they know what they could work on. And I just was really, is any of our communities could benefit from something like that, you know, so I mean, and obviously Denison being a bigger player, you know, that's given us the vision of what it looks like to begin with, you know, now we can probably, hopefully, some of the other communities, mayors and city councils will come check it out too, and that can help them. And, you know, because Charter Oak's got some stuff that could be a brownfield, have a study done for them, you know, in particular on Main Street.
And do you know, Ty, does Brownfield have outside investors that then step forward and like a plan like that they are showing
I think you could probably take that to our state level economic development. Show them what you got there, see if they've got some people that would like to roll that. I think that would probably be one of your best assets. USDA grants, now you can probably check into, you know, you'd be surprised how many. USDA has got a lot of rural development grants. Denison's our big city, but it's pretty rural, rural as the average goes, you know. So, yeah, I think there's different options there that they can go. And I mean, I haven't really sat down and talked with Jessica or, you know, Dustin about it, on what their real plans are, you know, and I probably would share all of them if they did give me some, if they didn't want it. But I know that they're working on trying to get some of that. And I suspect some of the other streets they're probably looking at other things too. So good for them. I mean, and there's the brownfield thing isn't available to everybody. You know, but you get a chance at it if you don't apply, right? So that was pretty interesting. I mean, helping our communities, you know, broaden their horizons, you know, create some quality of life along the way with some industry, you know, commercial. And I had a NACO RAC meeting that day. We really didn't talk about a lot of stuff. They were preparing for next month's, or almost this month's, July's annual conference. We were talking about some things we wanted for people to come talk to us about. Rural Action usually is trying to get the USDA in there to talk about things they're working on, you know, or get grants available, and just different stuff like that. So I'll have my ear to the pavement on that stuff out there. But
Where's that one at?
and this one, Daniel, it's in New Orleans this year, so I was trying to buy some cooler shirts.
What's the dates?
Go what the hell is it? 11th.
That's a Saturday.
Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Here we go. I'll fly out the 16th, it's the 17th through the 20th. I'll fly home the 21st because the last thing on the 20th isn't done until about 10. It's the good networking. I get more out of the network. Talking to other supervisors or commissioners, whatever the state calls it, you know, you get so much more out of that. And he'll be a lot busier this time because the guy that's the commissioner from Loudoun County, Virginia, that's having all the webinars and stuff for data centers, because they are data center central in the United States. I mean, they got a lot of data centers. But last one I was starting to sponge off it pretty good, but this time I was wanting to really sponge off it, but I don't know how busy because he's running for second vice. So he'll probably be pretty busy campaign. But Terry said that he does have it scheduled for some seminars, so as long as it doesn't conflict with something I have to do, you know, for military veterans. And I usually hit them, but sometimes in seminars they schedule them when we're having some of our official meetings. So, but I'll try to hit all that stuff that I can. And that's pretty much all we really talked about. It was actually kind of a short meeting. I think everybody's just ready to get to the conference and get rocking on that. Because them are that's a fast pace, go, 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 go. But it's fun. I mean, it's enjoyable. How's that? Maybe not fun so much as enjoyable, because I'm ready to take a nap when I get home.
Probably a pretty good turnout of people going from Iowa.
You know what? I haven't seen our list. It's starting to get better. Obviously, I don't know how we're gonna do it now, our new NACO rep for the state, because Richard's been that forever. But he's retiring this year, you know. And, I don't know if it'd be Barry or Latifah maybe. I mean, I think there's a few people's names being brought up, you know. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But, you gotta go to more meetings if that's, I didn't throw my name in. So, you know, if you think you don't have anybody else, I mean, I wouldn't mind doing it. I don't mind helping, but I, like the Hawaii thing, I had to go to that. They have another stuff in Texas, and then they got like 3 other conferences that I don't mind jumping in there for fly-ins to go up and do legislation that'll help us, or do these 2 conferences where they can get, I mean, like JD, you know, our president, that guy, I don't know how he gets back to Texas to do his job there. I mean, they got him going. But it's only a year, I guess, for them, so that's no big deal. In any event, and you don't have to go to all of them, but you know, they encourage you to if you're our rep for the state. And I think the state pays some of it, mind you, so it isn't the county would have to take the entire burden. Let's see. So that's pretty much it for RAC. Then I went to, we had another paradigm, the training for the pipelines. It talked a little bit about the carbon, but that's really kind of quieted down. Now we'll still have carbon pipeline potentially in Crawford, but just from the Andersons north. But they talk about all our pipelines, natural gas, Black Hills, you know, I mean, all of them. And
What was that discussion at?
it was out at the Boulders.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've been going to them since I got on board. I think I've been going to them once they started the carbon pipeline thing. We started having. There's a guy comes in. Now this one was the same guy I've had before, and he was really interesting. But he was about preparedness, and Deloitte had a pretty good crew turnout there. They won all the door prizes, I think. But you know, he just talked about coordinating the efforts between, you know, who to talk to, whether it's the pipeline officials, the particular ones, and he gave them classes for the fire service people on how to read the signs and all the important information. Most of our fire service knows how to do that, but he went over all those things. I think they do. I know we'd always trained on that kind of stuff. We went to state training where they trained us on it, but it was a lot of detailed stuff, you know, and then the ammonia guys were there. You know, we don't have an anhydrous line in Crawford, but I think they do them in Mona maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and anybody that's been close to an ammonia cloud or guys that are out putting it on the fields, anhydrous,
Pretty nasty
that'll
stuff.
steal your air in a minute. Remember when it was out by Corky's out there that time, and driving by on the highway, I'm just driving along, hurrying to get there. And I remember driving into that little bit of a cloud, trying to suck some air in. It was terrible. That stuff's
Dangerous.
it's wicked. You know, and I mean, we did the training where you do the water fog to get up on it to shut it off, you know, because the water will push it back, you know. But it's still, you know, you're still in an air pack and all that, you know, and I kind of floored it to get through that quick, because man, that was robbing me of air. I don't know how long it'd take to black you out, but I didn't want to test it, you know. So I mean, there's some dangerous stuff out there that already exists in our ground in the state, you know, and you know, you want to know about that if you're especially like the Charter Oak Fire Department, you might get mutual aided over to something, you know, and then we obviously deal with it with the tractors and, you know, if somebody break a line out there in the field or something. So that's all dangerous stuff, but it was a good training session. I mean, I don't mind going to them, you know, just to kind of keep up and see if there's something new that we need to know. And I mean, I don't know where we stand on the carbon pipeline, but they didn't really talk about it much. So, I mean, they did talk about it. But
Is there a map that's available that shows Crawford County?
Yeah.
And all of the pipelines that are currently?
Yeah. And
in the
some
ground?
stuff, it's not like, it's right here. It's not quite that close, but it gives you a location. You know, you got a natural gas pipeline or something. I mean, some of that stuff they like to keep to themselves for obvious reasons. You can come up with nefarious characters, right? So you wanna, but you go out there, even like the state, it's close to it, but it may not be right on it. You know, that's why you have to do your one calls, like we were talking about earlier with the park. You know, you want to just do them for sure, because that, right where that stake's driven might not be the exact place, you know. Like I said, for obvious reasons, but it was pretty good training, and I just like to go see if we're getting a good turnout from our guys, you know, and from the fire services, you know, and it seems like every time I've been to one, you know, like one time I went, Denison had a real good turnout, you know, I mean, it just seems to like roll around like that, you know, they decide they're gonna go this time or something. Because we get a lot, we'd fill that room up there, it looked like they were having a cattleman's banquet or something, you know, all the fire services showed up, so I don't know if they kind of do it like that, because the trainings, there's some repetition to it, but adds different stuff too, so I mean, it's good to go. And it isn't like I'm out there doing anything, you know, but it's keeping my nose to the grindstone as the chair for EMA, you know. Anyway, that was the things that I did that week. Like I said, last week there wasn't any. I've had some interaction about the data center stuff, you know, but
I mean, concerning the carbon pipeline with Summit,
okay.
I've been kind of following IUC, you know, they always send out, if you were on the list, I think every one of us is signed up for the list. And I keep waiting to see if there'd be an amended Exhibit H for Crawford County, changing that. And I have not seen that yet. I keep looking for Crawford County. And you do too, and you haven't, I didn't know if I missed it.
We could, you know what, I should call, write down your question and call Kaylee or something, have her, you know, come in and give us a update on what we're up to. I mean, last time I talked to her was at our supervisor.
Statewide.
Hey, that was at the state, it was at, no, she was down at the spring conference, yeah, I talked to her at the spring conference.
Okay.
For a little bit, she didn't have any update from the statewide supervisor, but, you know, I just, you know, if somebody that's doing something in Crawford County is at one of our events, I always stop to talk to them, you know. You always gotta stay in touch with people, you never know, you know. Good or bad, you gotta make sure you stay in touch. But otherwise, this week was real quiet, you know, or this past week was real quiet. So I'll take a week like that from time to time, especially after I had one that didn't seem like I ever got done having meetings, you know. But that's all I got.
Summer's gonna fly by, you're gonna be grilling at the pork tent pretty soon.
Yeah, that's coming. Well, this next month, the next 2 months are gonna be pretty busy. I mean, we got, you know, achievement days are a little bit later than normal, aren't they, Kyle? Charter Oaks Little Achievement Day.
Yeah,
They're the 11th, I think.
The 4th falls, so.
You know, just by the way the 4th lays, it's kind of messed everybody up because it was on a Saturday. So there's 2 parades for sure in county. You know, there's one Friday, and I gotta do trucking on Saturday, so my guys don't have to go out on 4th.
Dennison's Friday.
What's that? Denison's Friday and Manila's
Saturday.
Manila and Dunlap's are the same time this year, so I mean, we wouldn't be able to hit both anyway. I always kind of enjoy that challenge. That's kind of the flying the 4th, you know, that's kind of fun to do both of them. My feet are ready to go to the house when it's over though. But, you know, and then there's the annual conference, and then, I got Crawford County Fair. I won't be home for the first day, so I don't know that my riders will be bringing the flag to the Boy Scouts. You know, we're already talking about it because I only got a couple, and one of them's got some health issues that he's dealing with. And so we might. My old guys are all starting to peel off. Need to find some new young riders.
Gene, get your motorcycle out.
Yeah, Gene can ride with Jerry. There you go. You got your own bike?
I don't need my own bike.
You got somebody else to drive so you can watch. You bet.
I'll
That's the way
carry
to
the
do it.
flag.
Natalie's mom used to always ride with her. You know, she's a vet too, her mom, and she'd ride and she'd get the flag out of the trunk because Natalie's got her trike. But anyway, So I won't be, because I'll be flying home that Tuesday since the fair. And it looks like our fair is gonna be abolished. They got an action pack. Kudos to the board. It looks like it's gonna be a good time. You know. A lot of stuff going on. I know there's people excited, you know, with having the big hot rod tractors again this year and rodeo and all that.
I think they start running at the day out.
Carnival. Yeah, they did a great job. Great
Some
job.
reported Grego Sunday, she said the amount of people signed up, kids, for the horse events,
Oh, really?
is really taking off.
Excellent.
Instrumental in trying to get that going. Good morning.
Yes.
You know, I only got one more big pipe dream as a supervisor, and that's to build a huge expo, not huge, but a large expo center to help revitalize and get actually some bleachers in there where we can have events. That's just part of the pipe dreams. In any event,
Never hurts to drink.
no, that's where dreams are where reality's built, right? Or hatched. Yeah, reality is hatched. That's pretty much all I got.
Thank you, Ty.
Just
Ben?
Ben for Ben.
Well, first thing, got one utility permit just for primary underground electrical service just crossing 230th Street up in Ogden Township, between sections 30 and 31. Just a road crossing. Not sure if they intend to. I'm gonna see what they do, if they're gonna bore it or if they're gonna plow it. If they're gonna plow it, well, want to copy up there. I'm gonna see. Make sure they're plowing and how they do it to get the depths that we want. We don't really have in our permit application policy minimum depths indicated in our policy, and we don't specify that it needs to be bored. Some counties do, perhaps we should, but we haven't. Most of the time they do, just simply because there's so many utilities in the road that almost makes it impossible to plow through. So I'm curious, I was gonna see how they do on this one.
Do they ever ask you what the county would prefer to do or
If
not?
they could, they would plow it, you know, and as long as they backfill properly, and we've allowed that past, as long as it's backfilled properly, it's fine. It just seems to be a lot of times we go back and also got dip. It just the hassle always, you know, take care of ourselves is probably the easiest route, but you know, just knowing that it's always, every time they plow across it has left and it's not done properly. But
So every utility company has boring capability.
or they have a company that they
Oh,
get to.
they could hire.
I don't know if they all have boring capability, but they would get it bored. So required. Anyway,
And boring.
curious to see how
Boring, I don't know how much it costs, but there's a lot of boring companies out there. You think that would cheapen it up some.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I would think it would be.
I think it'd be more cost effective.
On your own,
to bore.
honestly, so.
Rather than tear up our road, you think it'd be more cost effective to bore? That's just me guessing, right?
But again, not a lot of it happens, you know, the open cutting or plowing, or the throwing laterally across the road, just simply because there's so many utilities in there that you're being bound to plow through, that boring is almost the only way, so.
So you said there are some counties that require boring only, or they say you.
Yeah, just for reference, I know, I looked at Shelby County, they do require that all road crossings be bored, you know, and, you know, that's them. We just haven't had that specification in our permit, and we haven't indicated, you know, minimum depths. We do when there's larger projects, we have a pre-construction conference, meeting out on site, and say, here's the depths we require underneath the roads, top and in the ditches, and we do put a separate document out there for them following these larger projects, but there's nothing in our standard policy permit application indicating that, and perhaps that's something that we need to revamp and have that stated in there if that's what we want. So, but anyway, it's over there. This is a pretty simple installation.
Right.
We're gonna just put one electrical service from one side of the road to the other. Just just make a conversation, possibly revamping a permit, application as far as that. I'll look into that. Construction project widening over there, over on, or the widening is done, but they are now overlaying. They're doing their first lift of HMA overlaying. And I think they pretty well got the south of the curves done with the first lift, and so now they're probably going through the curves and north with the first lift. There's only 2 lifts going up on it, a 2-inch lift, the intermediate lift, and then an 1.5-inch surface lift. So we'll have 3.5 inches of material on the roadway after all is said and done. So
You know, I was comparing roads from Oklahoma to here and where we just ground before we even started putting overlay down. I think that road is smoother than they are in Oklahoma. Where is that? I do want you to finish the project. I do, but
you can, when we mill, it gives you that opportunity to get your profile a little better and to just kind of have it from the start before they even start overlaying. They can take out a lot of irregularities in the surface. So I don't doubt that it's much smoother than it was before. There was a lot of bumps on that road. So it probably was smooth. But yeah, hopefully we're all said and done. It's smooth and has structure to it. So, but yeah.
hopefully we don't get any heave right away after we get done.
Yeah, but when they're out filling cases, out there checking the level and measuring and making sure they get their slope correct, even at
All that sponsored market taking samples.
yeah, that's that we test those daily. That's to make sure they're getting the thickness that we test for the specific gravity, and making sure the densities are where we want.
Where do we send that to? For recent samples and tests.
We go to the lab that they have set up down there, whether they get the asphalt or not, they have a lab set up. But Brent does all the testing of cores. So when he's out there, they cut cores at 9 o'clock. He has them tested by noon. And that's, like I said, tell you what make sure the mix is good, that it's within specifications and getting the thickness that they want or that we want. And that's what kind of what they get paid on. So they're going to want to be right with that. So.
Okay.
But we do the testing, so we have that quality assurance. So. But yeah, they're plugging right along. I've had no issues with doors that up as of yet. So they come, they do, they do good work. Anyway, great crew. They're down on 310th Street, shaping up that approach. It might be down there for a couple more days, I'm sure. And then I believe they're going to head over to P Avenue to do about 2 miles of level B grading over that direction. They'll be there sometime. So probably about a month and a half, maybe once or 2 months in that neighborhood. So I'm glad they were able to get down there and get that taken care of, though. I know they've got some construction going on that they kind of want to proceed with after the fact. So I think it'll look real good. I want to head down that direction after the meeting here and check out the progress. Bridge crew, Zach is gone. Arnold's, but we did start a new guy on the bridge crew, Sean Hansen. He started yesterday. I think he's doing real well. They're doing some repairs on some culverts yet. They got this week yet, and next week, then I believe they're going to start on the Vale Weir possibly towards the end of the next week. They're doing some tree removal, but basically wait for Zach to be back to really start getting going on that. And Zach will be gone this week and next. So, but yeah, they're doing real well. They're going to head up north to that B bridge and do the repair on that guardrail clipped by a truck. So, so they got a couple days while it's out to kind of keep so. Roadside crew, they're out mowing and spraying. Yeah. So getting some mowing up these pavements and whatnot ahead of the 4th of July weekend here. So get some of that done and spraying weeds. So hopefully we're getting a good kill. So and, I do believe we may have gotten some overspray on in a couple areas on some beans. So we'll have to go take a look at those. So next item on here, motion to approve, I think it was listed as a discuss and take action. Three pickups, the 2027 Ford F-250 pickups, or Ford pickups, and all that. So we kind of discuss what we're doing, budget, that I put the budget for 3 Ford pickups that, and their pickups then would be passed down to the ditching crews, and I believe, well, maybe go to the bridge crew as a pickup, and their pickups, the ditching crews. They're probably, if we need one, we'll have a shop, we'll hold on to it, and then they go kind of go to the auction. They're kind of hit their life and for us, I guess, at that point. So,
But they really have no trade-in value to trade in for the new ones versus putting them on the auction.
at that point, we've got so many miles on them that they've been used pretty hard.
Always.
Yeah, they do real well at the auctions, and they are well maintenance
Right.
trucks. They just had they've been used. They've been out in conditions, where the salty roads and gravel on asphalt projects. So I mean, they're not bad pickups. Just they've kind of gotten to the end of their lifespan for us. We just make sure we have some reliable pickups out there that we got our guys running around in. So. But they do real well on the auction. I
What's the
don't think
delivery
the
date?
trade-in we can get much of anything. So
What's the delivery date then on those?
you say approximately 3 months is what they've been seeing, 3 or 4 months. Hoping to have them here by before 6 months, but I haven't given them some. But yeah, that would be that's it. We got pricing, Dodge Rams versus Fords, price being comparable here. For the Fords.
So entertain a motion, I mean, it was in Ben's budget for the 26-27 fiscal year. Approved by Mr. Ward, so I guess I entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the 2027 F-250 pickups from me.
And the price seems pretty comparable with the state and stuff down in the mines. Pretty good, don't they?
I think they give our government pricing concession for and they'll give a discount as well. I think that's about in line with what we want.
How long do we keep these?
Until we figure
How old are the pickups? How old are the pickups that we're gonna take to the auction? Do we keep them 10 years, 8
I'd
years?
say the ones, we'd have to see kind of what makes it go, but I'd say they're probably around that 2010 range.
They're 15, 16 years, yeah.
We're getting there good again.
Oh, yeah.
I'd make the motion to purchase 3 2027 Ford F-250 pickups, 15 Ford, pricing each one at $53,653, totaling $160,000. Am I saying it too fast? $160,959.
Motion by Ty,
Second.
second by Kyle. Any further discussion?
I have a question, when do we pay for these, then when they get delivered, or is it?
We give you 3 months to round up.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Chair votes aye, motion carries. Anything else, Ben?
The next item, motion approved. I made a miscalculation, the marketing units wages. I was under the impression those I had that they were in these 3 years. So last year, we see a 3% increase. I was incorrect. It's actually a dollar amount increase. Amy was good enough to inform me of my
It's good.
my error, and doesn't make a lot of. It doesn't affect my budget with my budget estimate. It was really in that regard, but the numbers I had are incorrect, and foolishly need to revise the market units wages in that regard. it was not meant to be a 3% increase, it was meant to be a $1.20 increase that they had negotiated with the board for these 3 years that they are now in the last year.
Is that what we signed? Was that reflected $1.20?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's nothing changed over what we signed, is that right?
Correct.
He just had to put it correct in his budget.
Well,
My budget, I estimated, it's, doesn't affect my, it's really kind of probably around that 3% increase regardless.
Yeah, making sure it's right for the guys. For what we
The right, the guy, that $1.20 matters to the guys on the bottom. of the food chain. They're young.
Right.
And I don't know why I had in my head it was a 3%. I just, for some reason, just looking through the notes, I had in my head it was a 3% increase, and that's what I calculated.
You're still kind of new. Kyle or I are big up, that's, we're always shooting for dollar first.
And that makes sense in my mind. And like I said, for that exact reason, it helps the guys out, you know.
You don't have a lot of
a
people.
wage gap, right?
You don't have a lot of people, percentage isn't a big deal when you have a large number like what you work with. That makes a difference.
I think they also appreciated the 3-year contract because they kind of knew where they were at each year.
I appreciate that they work with. I think that's a good, they're always very, they come in with their proposal, but they're always good to work with. Road crew.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna negotiate for what they think is fair, and I think they're always receptive to, you know, looking broad at things, so they realize that, you know, there's only so much,
so do we need to change anything versus what we don't, do we?
We looked, it
They're all-
was matched up to what.
I did send, I don't know if this came up here, but I did a revision of this sheet, this
We
is
did
advice.
sign
That'll just go around and
They're all
the consent items, that'll be signed.
Already been through.
Yeah,
so
you already signed
Okay.
I want to explain my.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Okay.
We got it.
Well, gravel hole, it is completed. I don't know if that's a record time, but it's gotta be really close. I know, I have it down there saying, I just can't believe it's
30
done
days.
already, so.
30 days.
Yep.
There've been years where it's going into October, November.
Sounds like it was a good thing you were getting it done, though. You're gonna start losing a bunch that are hauling a rock down the Woodbine or something.
Probably, which, I mean, when we get towards the end, you know, the truckers see the end coming and they start finding
Finding the next
the
project.
next place to go. So then we were able to kind of keep wheels rolling and keep all the trucks that we did up to the very end. And we probably could have done maybe one more day of hauling out of Wall Lake, but we're gonna leave the rest of that material that's up there for Brandon and our guys to haul throughout the season and just haul the piles as we need, got the roads covered. So all turned out real well. The 120,000 ton that we hauled out and still have up there covered our roads. We're gonna still have a little bit of the stockpiles. Roads, I didn't need as much as what we had anticipated. So they're in good shape. Didn't have a whole lot of, you know, pushed off over the winter. So doing real well there. I was happy to see that, you know, we had the gravel to get the roads covered. End of the story, end of the line. But
See, I gotta ask a question
Mhm.
while we're on the subject, because I just seen somebody reminding me of it the other day, dumping a load of riprap. Not here, but, you know, we talked about getting that a little more cost effective from Florida. Do we get what would equivalent to a whole train car of that riprap of that type? I mean, where you could get it down here even cheaper from Fort Dodge? We ever did that? I mean, I know you get enough to fill the ditches. That's about the only place you're using that white stuff, you know, when we do a new road up or redo a road out in the county, so we're putting it in the ditch for the tiers. But
I want to say,
have we ever bought a whole train load of that, or whole car load of that? And it's gotta be cheaper than sending trucks.
I'm not sure how much they like loading their train cars with that. I guess I don't know.
Good point.
That's one thing else. Guys down the yard want to unload.
It'd be awful hard on that conveyor belt unloading it. Down
Yeah,
here.
I think that'd be the biggest issue there. But I think last time we,
Pennies count, right? I just thought I'd ask.
we grabbed some of that riprap size for kind of ditch checks. I want to say we grabbed about 300 ton of it. I don't know, a train car, I suppose. The train car is about 100 ton, but like, again, I think it's the loading and unloading conditions of the train cars that they don't like to.
They're not-
Beat their cars up in that regard, so.
Yeah, I didn't know, that's why I'm asking. All right. thanks.
But I
Good question.
certainly look into it.
Can you say it, Penny?
Just FYI, the UP Railroad contacted me yesterday. They're doing work on basically all their crossings going from west to east across Crawford County and beyond. I know we had the closure there with CN Railroad that it got extended about a week long, the closure. UP Railroad is in and out. Usually their closures last a day at most on these crossings there. We ran them, getting some asphalt laid in, doing some really good work. Seeing where it's just on Nelson Park Road, and they're pretty in and out. And they provide all their own traffic, their signage and the roadway notifications of their closures. They make it a pretty good. They make a good showing of it, and again, the closures are in and out. They're making sure they're not closing more than one crossing at a time without outlet. So I feel they'll be in and out across the Crawford County within a couple of weeks and be done with that and have a lot of good work done. But just FYI, they are working on some closures. And if you got any calls on that, so. And the next thing, the speed limit change signs. I received some guidance from the Service Bureau from the ICEA on recommendations for how to address the legislation on 60-mile-an-hour speed limits. I got this about an hour before I came up here, so I haven't had time to digest it, but just a little bit of perusing I did of it. It's everything I had anticipated. Looking at our curves, our no passing zone paint lines, that they don't give any kind of time frames on when this all needs to be assessed, but likely there will be very little that needs to be done, but everything probably needs to be assessed. Our curves are probably fine, but we will have to assess them. Our paint lines are probably fine, but we'll have to make sure. We will probably have to on our entrance permits.
Did they give a time frame as to when that needs to be completed, assessment needs to be
They
completed?
did not give a time frame other than don't put up 60-mile-an-hour speed limit signs before July 1.
Okay.
So we had,
Who's providing those signs?
we are.
Every county is
Yeah.
going through the cost of the 60 mile, and we make those ourselves?
We're ordering the faces. We're gonna save a little bit by ordering the faces and putting the faces on the existing signs. Troy's gotten real good at that, but we did order them all. They came to us with the wrong size, but so we gotta get them returned.
How many 55-mile-per-hour signs are in Crawford County that we need to change?
43.
43.
I talked to the sign guy the other night.
Oh, there we go.
We had to go to a baby deal. And he was talking about how the refacing, doing the whole face instead of just putting the sticker on for it, because the rest starts to fade and so he said, you just do a reface once, and he said, then it'll last a lot longer, and it was more cost effective for us.
Yeah, he's got a method down for getting it done, saving us quite a bit, not ordering the actual face with it all done, just doing the faces of it, just on off, using the existing sign that we have, and saving us quite a bit.
Do it right there.
Do you have any idea how much 43 signs cost us? The estimate, just rough.
I thought I saw an email to the fact that new, I want to say it's somewhere around that $175, maybe the stickers that they were saying around that $175 to $100.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. I didn't
try to get
pay
the
too much
cost in
attention.
mind.
Can we get a refaced, whatever the costs are, they are in that regard, but going a little bit of a cheaper route, but not exactly a sticker, but doing the facing ourselves. But yeah, let me kind of digest this.
Yep.
Like I said, there's a lot of recommendations.
And just so the
That
public
gives us at
needs to
least
know
the
that,
direction to proceed. So,
The lobby is really effective when the sign is out there, that just because July 1st comes. The sign still says 55 miles per hour. That is the speed limit. Is that correct?
The speed limit is 60 unless we indicate that we put a resolution.
Because I thought DOT has listed on their website that says that if the speed limit, even though July 1st comes and it moves from 55 to 60 miles per hour, if the speed limit sign has not changed, the speed limit for that road has not changed either. It's still
Really?
55 until the sign goes up and it says it's 60. That's the way I understood it.
That's why.
It sounds like some of the urban areas are working on a
It's
rate.
explained differently, but.
That's what it
I
said
can
too. Some
clarify
banks
that.
stay 55 due to safety and whatever.
So we would have the authority to keep ours at 55 if we so wish to, on the state change.
I think, well, there's recommendation and then guidance in here if that's what we choose, but,
Yeah, we'll let you read through that.
Yeah, give us a, yeah.
but yeah, I do think there's a map of doing so if that's what we wanted. And there may be roads out there that, you know, we don't feel comfortable, you know, getting up to 60 miles. I don't know, I don't think we got that, you know, our highways are in good shape. I don't see any reason why we can't come to 60 mile an hour speed limit. Got a little bit of assessment to do on some curves and signage and entrances and things of that nature, but no reason we can't do it. And keep uniformity within the state.
So the Iowa
Iowa
Department of Transportation, local counties have the discretion to keep the speed limit at 55 miles per hour or lower on stretches deemed unsafe due to curves, hills, or traffic. Always rely on the posted speed limit signs in your area rather than assuming the 60 mile per hour by default.
There you go.
Changes everything for me.
So anything else, Ben?
That's all I got. I'm good to go on July 2nd, basically taking this Thursday off and for the holiday weekend. And then we have a conference there on July 9th, me and Tim, the ICA mid-year conference. So I don't have anything else. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ben. Thank you. Right. The other one doesn't matter. Okay. So just looking at our agenda, we've got Monica here and we've got a resolution to pass. Just if there's any questions, we're going to jump down to the 26-26.
25.
26-20.
We're going to do 26 first. Are they related? Right? They're not really.
They're two different things.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
That's right. So this is the one we have questions on.
Right.
The other, here comes one.
Yep, so this should be pretty spelled out for you. The top section is our revenues. I broke them down into each department. Like I said at the beginning, we categorize by agency, public health, homemaker, home health, and hospice. Our revenues exceeded our budgeted revenues, which you can see way to the left where it says fiscal year 26 revenue budget, that number versus the actual. Down below in the little print, you can see I put excess revenue, so you can see my numbers very clear. So we had a good excess in revenue. And then the next section is our expenses. Again, same setup. Your fiscal year expense budget was, that's what our budget was. The ending number in that middle is what we expend. And then down in the bottom is unused budget, which comes up to that resolution number. Answers for the unused budget without going into every line item, I believe is excess salaries, just because of the turnover of staff in the past year. We lost our home care aide, we lost our clinical supervisor, we lost our payroll clerk. And then just that gap in time and filling. And then once people come on, some of them didn't have the same insurance values as the others. So that is what I'm suspecting without going line by line, looking at every single thing, that is the reason of the excess unused budget. So that's the agency part, and then way to the right is the HICM's part, and that's where that 39,000 is. You can see the HICM's revenue, the same setup, their revenue, their expense. We weren't able to cover that 39,000, and that's just a transfer from up that loan, 40 to 13. And a lot of that's just because today's June 30th and we're still incurring expenses today. So I can't get all my money back in for my June expenses till July. So this number will easily come back in. And if we were to dissolve as of today, we would easily cover that number. So that's kind of the story.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you can see like when we come down to that tax asking that we actually really used, that 205, 369, most of that really is because of that general agency admin expense in that first column. That first column is just, like I said, really overhead, $199,000. So that really is the bulk of our tax ask.
So the community health fund is something that I guess we voted on, we opened.
Right.
It doesn't have any money in it yet.
Right.
This will be the first funds that we will
Right.
put in there.
And the hope would be that we put this number in there because like we can see that, we'll just look at that expense section. We didn't use what we thought we were gonna use because of the things that had happened in our budget. And I understand Terry's concern. We levy the people for those dollars and that does affect everybody's budgets. And we don't wanna keep doing this and levying people for higher than what we need. So by putting this excess over, hopefully we can drive our ask down. And if we can't meet budget at the end of the year, we'll do just like Department 13 is doing and we'll borrow from that account. That way, let's keep driving it down.
Right.
This would be the goal. But it's unpredictable. It's like, like you look at our revenues and it's like, why is our revenue so much more? That's a big number. It should be different, but again, there's so many variables about your caseload or your days, your hospice clients on thing, your grants, if they, we know that we're going through a lot of changes with grants, what they're going to do or reduce or give more. So there's just lots of things that we're looking at. But I do want to give a shout out to Megan and both of the Amy's and Michelle, because it would be impossible to get these numbers to you without all their help, because we're having flex being paid today, we're having revenues come in today, and to come up with that concrete number, it takes a big team effort to pull this information together. So again, thank you for supporting public health and working with us to figure out what we're doing.
There's everybody that helped and, push yesterday to get it all thrown together, but I think.
Yes,
the
because
number
you
is-
also have a lot of things. I mean,
Yeah,
all the budgets that end on June 30th, they want you spent, so you gotta see your anticipating expenses that haven't come in. If you exceeded 10% in a line item, you have to request a budget amendment. Somebody's sick this week, that alters your plan, so you're just constantly monitoring a lot of numbers. And this might look cumbersome to you, but like this is at a quick glance, something that we can see and monitor and know exactly what's costing us or, where we need to fine tune.
Since we've got, I guess, both of the informations on this one form, I mean, we can do the resolutions in order like they are in our agenda as far as doing 26, 25 first and then 26, 26 after, unless there's any further questions for Monica, or I guess we got Kim here. Anybody have any questions for her?
I like the simple numbers and how easy it is to just, not turning a bunch of pages and a bunch of different graphs. It's just simple and it's,
I suppose we just gotta double check those numbers to make sure Megan typed them right on my resume. So as long as that number, the big number is in the public health one and that small number over there is in the Department 13 one, we're good. Sometimes you do a 3-2 instead of a 2-3,
Yep.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 2026-25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and that'll include the dollar amount, I think, of $39,982.50. You could put that in the
You
resolution.
have it some,
Is it?
I gave it to you.
Oh, I think it's probably on my, right here. The resolution, I guess I'll read that out loud. It just says resolution for, did the Hickams first, right? 2625.
625.
Whereas Department number 13, Hickams is funded by grant reimbursements into the general fund, whereas grant reimbursements for Department 13 have been delayed during fiscal year ending June 30th. Whereas it is desired to temporarily loan monies from the Hickams Family Planning Fund to the General Basic Fund to fund Department number 13. Whereas said temporary operating loan is in accordance with section 331-432 of the Iowa Code. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Crawford County as follows. Section 1, the sum of $39,982.15 is ordered to be transferred from the Hickams Family Planning Fund number 40 to the General Basic Fund number 1 by June 30th, 2026. Section 2 states the auditor is directed to correct her books accordingly and to notify the treasurer of this operating loan, accompanying the notification with a copy of this resolution and the record of its adoption dated June 30th, 2026. Motion by Gene, second by Kyle. Any further discussion? I will have roll call by resolution. Gene.
Aye.
Kyle.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Ty.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-26. Transfer general basic funds to community health fund, the amount of $356,521.45.
And that resolution just states, I guess we had a motion by Kyle,
Second.
second by Ty. Discussion just states that now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Crawford County, Iowa, that the sum of $356,521.45 is hereby transferred from the General Basic Fund 01 into the Community Health Fund number 03, dated at Denison, Iowa, the 30th of June, Crawford County Board of Supervisors.
That'll really help with budgeting next year.
I think so too. I mean, and then we'll have a way better picture of if this year replicates last year to give us a better feel of where we need to come in January, February, when we look at budgets. And like I said, we would propose to use this, but we wouldn't be able to use this all the time for all of it, or you would get back down to zero. So we'll have to just work out the bugs and all those details.
Thanks for your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any further discussion?
The last 2 days.
Any further discussion on that, on the resolution 2626? If not, we'll have roll call by resolution. Kyle.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Ty.
Aye.
Gene.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, thank you guys again for your support.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, ladies. Keep them healthy.
I think we have Joe is out here somewhere. I've seen him out walking around.
Joe.
There he is.
Where'd you go?
Let's see, Joe.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Jay. Welcome.
Hello.
Good morning.
Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you for putting us on the agenda for today. Our purpose of being here really is to just inform you on the status of our work done to date on the flood and drought mitigation strategy. Typically resulting in a reservoir, that would be our goal. But so this work that we started in 2003 continues today. These are long-term projects. They take typically 30 years. We're closing in on it. And I've got a 28E agreement here that I'm gonna share with you today and some background. And just, it's an information piece, if you will. And I've taken the liberty to create a purpose statement here on the beginning. And so essentially we're working on a project that would result in a reservoir, water reservoir. The work that's been done in 2003 created 8 possible sites in Crawford County that could be considered for a reservoir. based on the water in the area, watershed in the area. And ultimately, they would support an 800-acre lake. That's what the goal was at that time, and it's still the goal. We don't have an aquifer under Crawford County, so we're gonna have to create water. If we want expansion of any kind, we've gotta have more water. And that's true almost every location in Western Iowa. So we continued this work. We got serious about putting some effort again to it in February of 23. That was Paul Osmond, myself, and Jay Ford. And Jay's work with USDA and NRCS in 2003 created a map that's in your packet. And that map highlighted the 8 locations in Crawford County that could possibly support a reservoir. And then the work kind of stopped there. There's been several studies done over the years. A 20-year water needs study was completed a couple of years ago. 5-year plan was put together in 2006. So over the years, there's been different studies, different participants. One time, even the Chamber of Commerce in Crawford County was willing to support it. Farm Bureau in the past has been willing to support it. But we've just had so much effort put forth, and then they end up dying. So we're actively working on getting a signature from Crawford County Supervisors, Denison Municipal Utilities, and Manning Rural Water Association that would allow us to create a commission. And the commission then would continue this work forward. We're not asking for anybody's money. We think we can get the next steps done with this with grants and awards. And so that's what we're facing today. And I certainly would be willing to answer questions you have, but my purpose today was to leave with you the 28E agreement and that you would consider signing that as a group. And DMU has indicated an interest in signing it. And we still have to meet with the board at Manning Rural Water as well. We've talked, and Jason's been part of our conversations since we started. So he's up to speed on what's going on and the latest developments. And so not sure what we want to do next.
So you're gonna leave the 28E with us, and I'm sure we'll show it to our county attorney and let him. He's already seen it.
He's already seen it.
And did he have any
No, he had no issues.
objections or
The
thoughts? or-
only one that had any objections originally was George on behalf of DMU, but all them stipulations, I believe, have been met. And
We had talked about this a year ago already.
Yep.
And we were
we
ready to move ahead at that point. DMU was just kind of questions.
Yeah, they have a question.
Yeah, so I'd say, Joe, as you leave it with us, and we'll put it on the agenda for next week, and we can vote on it then.
Then let the rest of the work for you folks. A great idea.
Yes.
Don't need any more of your time today unless you have questions. You kind of know what we're up to. We're all volunteers. We're not paid.
There's like grant stuff already, I mean, I've already found something as well. Available. I mean, if there's one bigger one that's got a match to it, but if there's all 3 entities involved in the match, it would be a pretty small piece of the pie. You know, I mean, that would be something for the 3 entities to decide once the 28E is going.
Really, the next step is to create the commission that this 2080
Right.
agreement would do. And then that group would be the organizing and the director.
Where they would probably discuss what is the best site selection.
Yeah, that would all come in the next phase, and I think it'll take about $1.5 million to do that next phase. It'll take 5 years to do it. This stuff don't happen overnight, so we're prepared to hang in there for the long haul.
These guys have been working with some of, like down there at Trustin, there's been some reservoir those who are.
Yeah. We've done a lot of work with the Clark County Rural Water Program project down there, the reservoir. I'm familiar with 11 Mile and 3 Mile at Union County. So there's projects, have done some work in Missouri also. So we have some experience with some of these operations that have been working on getting reservoirs. So we're trying to avoid any speed bumps we can. There's plenty out there.
Thanks, Joe. Any other questions for Joe?
Well, it's quite a project. And
It is.
You guys put time and effort into this.
Sticking with it.
Well, Joe really resurrected this, but drought, like years bad. But 4 or 5, not 6 or 7. Shortage, being used for the water losses every other year, so things like that. Yeah, it's people interested. This originally sites for economic development, recreation, that's kind of purpose. And but you're creating a lot of water. You're talking about 600-acre lake arenas. You're talking trillions of gallons of water. Even a low flow stream like this is 5,000 acres. You might get 5-7 million gallons of water passes through a very, very low flow. So that's surprising. Generally, this part of the state, you don't have to go too far south or southeast. The state's getting their water out of rivers and reservoirs, so it can be done. But that's a long-term view of this right now.
I think it's important to remember that we've actually lost a few opportunities, or we weren't able to participate in a few economic development opportunities to the water. Potential for projects coming forward potentially, could need water. So I mean, if you watch around anything, water is the new oil, having water available. And to me, our first priority is the folks at Crawford and the local area, so I mean, what we can do to prepare for any contingencies of tomorrow, to me, that seems to make this a very important project. Thanks for what you guys have done.
Have any of the sites been confirmed? No, have any of the sites been confirmed or?
No. In fact, this map was created almost all like desktop publishing.
Okay.
There's been no real groundwork done.
We picked out the sites. Actually, I picked out the sites. Traveling county, looking at contra maps, looking at soil maps. I knew you needed 20 to 30,000 acres of drainage. Picked out the major streams in the county, and then I sent that in to our Des Moines office. So they figured out just through their programs there, their engineering programs, they could figure out even 25 years ago how you need to build a dam, what kind of water storage you have. But no cost estimates, no land rights, anything like that. Those are upland treatment, what the watershed looks like. They all look a lot better now than 5 years ago. Those are the kind of things you got to tackle when you start looking at the next.
Is there an estimate of, what this would cost? I mean, just a ballpark, or is that the money questions?
Well, if you had to buy 800 acres at
Okay.
$10,000 an acre, that's $8 million. Just for
Yeah.
land
There's a start,
acquisition.
yeah.
And maybe it's and to get 800 acre lake, you're gonna have to have 1,200 acres of land rights, something like that. So yeah, you're talking.
Multi-million.
I don't want to scare anybody, but
Well,
50 to 100 million.
Minimum,
So you're
150 million probably.
you're talking the state and the federal government.
And if you said, you gotta remember, I mean, that sounds like a gigantic number to us. But what can it gain you? I mean, and that'll be part of the studies, I mean, selling water off of the lake, plus the development around the lake, what kind of tax revenues that will bring in the long run. Water reserves to have obviously brings you in industry because you are capable now. I mean, there's a lot of benefit. They're spent, but anybody that's been in business, you don't spend money, you don't make money if you don't spend some. I mean, that, but you made it sound like we hadn't had, I mean, DNR does ground studies all over. I mean, they've done bores in our area, so we've already kind of got an idea of what might be out there. But obviously, there'll be more needs to be done when we start looking at actual sites, assuming it gets that far. You know, I mean, but I don't think, I think, to me, it seems important that we're trying to prepare ourselves for what may be, you know, and this is a big part of my thing, when I joined the team, so to speak.
There are a few examples that state the public-private lakes where they combine private for part of it, public use for the rest. So there's different ways to, you know.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the estimate for curb and grassy area removal and install the concrete at the CCS building. I guess there was, did we get an estimate? I mean, this just states,
Up top, the very first, just kind of says,
this right up here?
no, up a little bit more. There you go.
Oh, this is right, okay. So they estimated 18 to 22,000, and that this was us getting a bid from Mike Friend
10 point
with 10 Point Construction. And
pictures on the back.
Terry is just responds back to that she hasn't contacted the city yet. She was curious about the cost to see if the Board of Supervisors would be interested without much work. Can we get a very rough estimate? And he says, this is rough, but 18 to 22,000. And there, I guess, is the picture of what the pink area would be, what they would take out and make that into diagonal parking, just so we can get more people there to park, I guess.
How many more parking stalls will that make? I haven't seen that yet.
That's my question.
Three more? Don't
I'm
answer.
just jerking your feet.
Yeah,
Why would you want to?
I would say it'd be significant because currently they're just parallel park. If you want, there's what, half a dozen?
Four there now.
There's
according
four?
to this pink.
Kim probably knows.
Oh, even though there's spots marked, they're too small for vehicles to even fit in, so you can probably get half a dozen on
Yeah.
that side of the street at this point.
The vehicles are,
Yeah.
I've seen them in there.
Oversized.
Even I have a Sportage and it doesn't even fit in those, it barely fits between the lines on the parking on that side, so you gotta pick out where I guess.
When we decide to do it, it's gonna be a long time.
Correct. Correct. Okay. Where would we fund it out of?
I don't know, we'll have to come out of,
We don't have it in the 26-27 budget.
no, it has to come out of the budget amendment. We got money set aside in our capital projects.
Say it would be a capital project.
Definitely a capital project.
City gonna help fund that? A lot of it will be performed within their right of way.
Sounds like Terry would talk to the city depending on if we were, said, yeah, let's proceed and see what the city thinks. Or if we're automatically against it.
Yeah, first rate, find out.
Nice to kind
And
of
it doesn't need to
dial
be
in
free.
on what the actual cost is gonna be and where we're at.
It's the natural question, how much will it cost?
And I think I've noticed a congestion over there. Trying to find a parking spot is.
I mean, Louise has mentioned that to me specifically, that for her veterans, it's hard to find a spot. She wouldn't mind buying the building next door,
And it's for sale.
bulldozing it down and
It's for
making it in a
sale.
parking lot.
It's for sale.
89,000.
I think it's worth investigating deeper. to
So
find
the
out.
next step will be meet with the city,
Okay.
direct, you want to have Terry just call Jessica, see what the mood is of the city, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
They got a
When's Terry back?
They got a street project gonna be going through there.
I will be in touch with Terry then after Monday and proceed. Just write myself a note. Do that. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is our data ordinance. And I think everyone's had a chance to read it. One thing I think that I would like to do, I guess, prior to, is I have on Zoom, you see an individual by the name of Cole Qualheim is on there. And Cole is a construction engineer that works for Holder Construction and has worked for them for 18 years and has started his interning career building data centers 18 years ago. And so he continues to do that to this day. Cole's a Denison native, and I know him very well because he is my nephew, just so everyone knows that.
Just full disclosure.
And so Cole, I don't know if you're on, but I had a 30-minute discussion with Cole probably a week ago after our meeting, and there are just a lot of questions that I had for him concerning construction. And I thought, wow, I'm sure the rest of the board would have some questions also. And so I asked him, I said, would you be willing to come on our Zoom meeting? And Cole's in Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth area. And he said, sure, Craig. And so Cole, I don't know if you've got a camera or not. If not, I know you do. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm here.
We'll start out, Cole. I think I just,
Got a lot of hair for those.
what's that?
Got a lot of hair for those.
He's only 38. He's 41 now, so I guess that'll be changing.
Yeah.
Cole, I don't know if you could summarize maybe our discussion. I asked a lot of questions about maybe the change in technology. What's been the biggest change in technology since when you started building data centers 18 years ago to the changes that occur in data centers today? Maybe we'll start off with that and see if we can generate some other questions from the board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, just a quick intro, and I think Craig did a good job. So then I have been now at Holder Construction for going on 18 years, and I would say I have been part of between 45 and 50 data centers that we've built that I've been part of that construction team. A little bit of all over the United States as well. And certainly one of the things that Craig and I spoke about was just how that landscape has changed over those 18 years. So, and the public perception certainly has changed along with it as data centers have made its way into a lot of news cycles and just what the impacts are. And when you go back, about a decade, data centers were certainly smaller. Data centers were in that sweet spot was probably 2 to 4 megawatts of power. And a lot of that was with water cooled technology, i.e., using water cooled chillers and cooling towers. And with cooling towers, for those that aren't aware, right, that's big on evaporative cooling, and so the water demands were pretty significant. And as data centers have grown, and what you see, especially with the AI boom that's happening right now, is data centers are getting, 40 to 50 megawatts at the small end, up to some that we're building across the country that are close to 700 megawatts under one roof. And that technology, had it not evolved and changed with it, you would be looking at water demands of, 1 million, 2 million gallons a day, potentially, and upwards of 5 million by the time you get to go building out an entire site. So ultimately, those are shocking numbers to a lot of people when you go look at what that looks like. And so the industry's kind of changed a little bit where, and it's not even new technology, but air cooled chillers and closed loop cooling systems have been around, but the costs and the power requirements, deem them not as effective and efficient as what they wanted. But comes back around when you struggle to go get that type of water to your site, and not only bring the water to your site, but then eventually reject the water at some level, outside of evaporation. And so we talked a lot about closed loop systems, which means as we're going and building these data centers now, yes, there's a need for water to go, during the construction process for concrete, for flush and fill operations, for just a host of different things. But once you fill those systems and you walk away and that building is turned over, they're using, the amount of water that, 4 or 5 households use in a year, right? They're using it for restrooms and kitchen facilities or whatever. And the only time that they're actually bringing water in is, if you had certainly, some type of emergency leak or service that has to happen. So, closed water or closed loop technology has certainly changed a lot of perception and impacts on environment, and what that can mean for different places that have water restrictions or are in droughts, or building in places like Phoenix, Arizona, and things like that where evaporation happens at a much greater rate. So all those things, I think the main data center players, your Apples, your Googles, Amazon, Metas, etc., are utilizing a lot of that stuff right now because of the impact to the environment, and then ultimately public perception as well. That's been a big focus, as I think people in the data center industry would say there's a little bit of a PR problem, where you'll hear that there are power outages, there are water struggles, and all these things. And I think those were things that were probably really real um, a decade ago or plus. And they've taken a lot of strides to go make sure that people aren't impacted by data centers. It came at a really unique time that Craig called me, and I apologize. I'll take a breath here and ask questions, but it came at a really unique time where Craig called me, a week or so ago, and Craig mentioned I'm in Texas, and Governor Abbott in Texas went out and put out some new ordinances for the state of Texas, which I thought was really awesome. But there are a lot of things that most data center providers are already doing, but they're really good things to go put out and show that these are things, and these are real concerns from communities and people within the communities, that they need to go understand that that's not how data centers are being built anymore, and the technology has evolved to a point where impacts are certainly less, and making sure that the data centers coming to areas and locals are a net positive, and not a drain on those communities.
So Cole, from an energy perspective, are a lot of the new data centers creating their own energy, or are not, I guess, tapping into local energy sources? They're actually just creating their own?
So not yet, but that conversation is all the rage right now, because data centers they are certainly looking at locations all across the U.S. pockets of energy. Um, where can they go get power? That is certainly one of the biggest driving forces on site selection. It used to always be just land and tax incentives. I mean, that was a very common thing. Again, when I talk about early on in my career, and now it's availability of power. That is really huge. So they're still trying to go look and utilize, local power, from substations that have the 50 megawatts, the 100 megawatts, the 150 megawatts. They're looking for that stuff. But the conversation is that at the pace that is being built, and it's not just in Texas, it's across the United States. At the pace that is being built, those pockets of energy are going away. And they're being used up. And the ability for local utilities to continue to scale and provide more power is not going to keep pace with the need of the data centers. And so on-site generation is absolutely, a hot topic of conversation. And it is being utilized in some cases, and speaking, I know here in Texas, especially West Texas, a lot of gas turbine plants going in place, and utilizing natural gas to go power data centers. There are scenarios where natural gas turbines are going in, and they're providing part of the power, for those. But also means you got to have pretty large gas lines and gas mains around because that's not a small lift. Additionally, battery technology is starting to be utilized, and it's starting to be required by some utilities as you interconnect to it because AI loads can be unique where they can be very limited and then they increase pretty fast. And um, the way that they, interconnect with the utility is that any type of spikes, your battery plant will go handle spikes. So that way it's, being more friendly on the grid and there's not any type of, voltage sag that can impact customers. And so a lot of battery interconnections are happening. And then Craig, what we got to, I think, in our conversation is that the conversations are starting, but it certainly has not taken off in the United States yet, is for on-site generation for small modular reactors. Companies are coming up, and there is a company, I think, NewScale right now that has its first federally approved small modular reactor. And I think there's a couple that I know of, two test facilities going on in the U.S. right now that are going to go put that, and that's a conversation that's happening, but certainly would be on the bleeding edge right now. So a lot of the bigger data center providers are a little bit hesitant to go really go take that on. Um, I could see that being a very common thing as they go forward in the next 7 years, but it's certainly maybe not right around the corner.
Yeah, Ty.
Cole, I'd like to ask you, I was doing a little bit more research and NVIDIA is actually working on a chip now that's easier to cool, uses a lot less water to cool and a lot less electricity to power for the AI. Do you know much about that yet? I mean, I know it sounds like it's pretty new, but is that something that's, obviously if that's very beneficial, they might push them to get that out quick.
Absolutely. And NVIDIA has been leading the way for AI chip technology, and they've continued to go do so. The less water to cool, though, it's still on a closed loop system. So the beautiful part of that is that while it uses less water to cool, that's just a little bit means it's more efficient on your data hall. It's not actually going to require you to go provide more water. Water that goes to your chips is always a closed loop system and it's treated very with very fine filters because of what can go hit a chip and not damage it versus what you are using to cool that water. It'll go essentially to something called a CDU, which is for those that know mechanical, and I apologize if I'm talking about, it's like a heat exchanger. You're going to have some cold water go cool the water that's going to your chips, but that's all a closed loop system. Um, and NVIDIA's, they're probably, on the next edge of looking at almost something called like full immersion cooling, where they're going to start putting their chips just under a um, dielectric fluid and use that to cool them. And I would say that that's another thing that's, when you look at data centers in 5 to 10 years, that's the end goal. So for the longest time, we brought water to a data hall and we put big air handlers in there and blew a bunch of cold air to go cool our servers. And that worked for a while. And then the densities became a little bit crazy and started bringing water server racks and we had fans and then we did that and that was the next evolution. And now with NVIDIA and AI, we're bringing water to the chip, which is, because those chips get so hot and so, yeah, efficiencies there are going to help, but that's going to just essentially require less electricity, not less water, which is still a good thing. And then ultimately, I think the next evolution of that is full immersion, which is about the only next step you can go to with those.
Yeah, Ty, you got another question?
Yeah, so when we're talking about that, I mean, I understand how cooling systems work, whether it's in your cars or your air conditioner or your heat exchange pumps. What are they doing like for water that, would come out, whether it's in steam? I mean, do they have filtration systems in these facilities to make sure that it cleans the PFAS out of things as much as possible? I mean, that is a concern that I hear about. So, I mean, obviously, forever chemicals, want to make sure they don't get into our environment. What kind of safeguards do you guys build into your equipment?
or your facilities?
Yeah, so again, and I'll stick with if it's a closed loop, none of that water is being rejected down like a storm or like a storm sewer or into the runoff of the facility. If it's an open loop system, that is a little bit different scenario where um, you have like a cooling tower that will, number one, in those scenarios, most of the water you lose is due to evaporation. You get some drift for wind, and then you get blowdown, which is you got some suspended solids in there. And so a lot of the way that they handle that is on-site, like retention ponds. And so that way they're making sure that they're sending this and they're storing all that water on site and letting those dissolved solids or whatever kind of particulate and flow down to the bottom of those retention ponds. And that way what they're sending off to their, through to the streams or downstream or however the water runoff and storm systems are being handled in there is kind of been stratified and sending clean water down, and then they'll test those very regularly depending on whatever regulations or requirements they have in place for that specific locality to go make sure that their retention pond, if it needs to be treated, if it needs whatever scenario to go be added before going away, then they're doing that. During construction, we do create a lot of waters as we're cleaning, and you got welding slag and all that stuff as you're cleaning pipe. A lot of times we're hiring water haul off companies to go take it 3,000, 4,000 gallons at a time, treat it off site, and then send it down. So it's certainly a very pronounced thing. On open systems, also add in filters, whether it's a side stream separated filter, sand filters, to go clean up as much of that as they can before they're blowing down. They're doing that as well.
Thank you.
So Cole, since you mentioned that the main thing, I guess, that data centers are looking for now is energy. They want to go wherever their energy is available. Are they looking at Iowa, or is that, do you know? Like,
you have them right around you right now. So Google they've got a really massive campus in the Council Bluffs area, and they're building there, and they continue to go build there. I think they're looking for sites around there. I've heard them, and I say this, I don't deal as much with their site selection people, but we do a lot of work with them. So Google's there. I think they're looking potentially, going a little bit west towards Lincoln as another campus that they're looking at. But they're certainly very big in the Council Bluffs area. I think that might be one of their biggest sites in the entire country, just landmass wise. Meta has a huge campus in Altoona, so I think they're on either side of that corridor from Denison. I haven't heard much in the Sioux City area, but it wouldn't surprise me if some people go look at that. Omaha continues to bring in other data center providers, so they're in that area. And I think the reason why they go specifically to those areas, obviously, power being one, but certainly, workforce is a big driver to how you're going to go get it built. A lot of these data centers, you'll have anywhere between 800 to 1,200 people on at any given time. If you're going to go build anything, maybe 100 megawatts ish in that area. So availability to a workforce is important, as is obviously the power, the fiber, having long haul fiber, which I think actually follows part of Highway 30, if I'm not mistaken. So, long haul fiber is probably pretty close to Denison area if I was a betting person. And those are things that they start looking at when they're selecting site. Ease of location to transmission lines and highways for deliveries, is going to be big for them as well as when they look at that.
So do you know, is there anything, I guess, so you said you don't deal much with the site selection people, but I'm sure those people are dealing with ordinances, be it whether it's from the state of Texas or each county does something a little bit different. Is there things that you can put in an ordinance, and I know that there are, but I mean, that automatically turns off a data center, goes, okay, we can't go there, that's way too restrictive? Or, I guess, I'm just curious if you've looked at a lot of ordinances or have had people reject sites just because of an ordinance.
No,
No?
funny, a decade ago, absolutely, it's happening all the time, right? They would reject it over, we're not getting a big enough tax break. And anymore, no, I haven't seen them fight. They love communities that want to go welcome them in and go partner with them and work with them. And what I mean by that isn't necessarily the tax breaks. It's the, hey, we're going to go help get this thing off the ground from a public perception perspective. We're gonna go partner with you, and heck, maybe we've got an idea of where land and stuff makes sense, and go be part of that. But the ordinances coming out right now are very much so where it's, hey, you have to pay for all the power upgrades to your to the local utility, right? They're not going to pass any of that along to any of the other residential customers, or they're not going to subsidize part of the fact that you have to go run power lines an extra couple miles to go get into the utility. So you're going to pay for that. You're going to go look at water efficient technologies. You need to go be doing that. We're going to go make sure that you're investing and you're trying to go do your best to get the local community as much of the part of the build as possible. So I'll give you an example. I'm here in DFW. We're building 2 hours outside of DFW in a town called Wichita Falls. We went to a town hall meeting, and we got people's information that clearing sites that are a small mom and pop electricians, and we're gonna go figure out how we can go use them in our builds. And so that was something that was really important to that community, and that our owner was more than happy to go meet them at the door and say, yeah, we want to go partner with this community. So I don't think I've seen any ordinance in the past 2 years that have scared anybody away.
So you're telling people you must use a closed loop system, you must, any improvements to the electrical grid is all on your back, not on the back of our current taxpayers, or on the people that are the residents and customers of that utility. That's not a problem.
Not a problem.
Not a problem.
People have been coming in and also said, we need to have some help building the park, and they're like, absolutely. That when you look at the numbers that they're putting around, and building a 100 megawatt site, and like I said, in Wichita Falls, and that job is about we're expecting it to be about $1.2 billion for that one. And to get the workforce, part of that deal, we're also building man camps, which is not a sexy thing to go hear about, but we're going to bring the workforce there, because that specific community doesn't have enough hotels and apartment buildings and Airbnb, whatever, to go bring that type of workforce there. Partnering with people to go build out places for workers to stay, to go put that in place. And again, the data center providers are just, that right now is the cost of doing business in the current data center environment.
So you've got one, you said that's $1.2 billion is the investment.
That's one building. It is some site prep for some of the future buildings on that site. I think that's going to be a 6-building site. So yeah.
Cole, I actually seen the thing they're building over at Lincoln, and it's already in the process. I mean, I've seen cooling towers that are standing there and what have you. If that's Google, I had no idea. But I was impressed with the amount of earth that they're moving, and it looks like other industry could be developing around it, but maybe it's all for their particular site. I'm sure they need security and all that, so they probably got, when I went and looked at the one over by Des Moines, they got a lot of room to provide their security around it, and retention barrier, they got berms and different things. One of our supervisors had brought up that it'd be kind of nice to see them work with the natural environment, even, whether it be
for the pollinators and stuff like that. I mean, are they open to working with communities for those kind of things? It sounds to me like what you just brought up, they would be.
Absolutely, they are. I mean, I think every step of the way they want to go make sure that they are a positive impact on the community. You know, depending on where they're being built, some people may have sound concerns, and they focus very much on sound reduction technologies, and maybe it's acoustical barrier walls. We've been on sites that are backing right up against uh, that are backing right up against a residential area, and they didn't want to see the equipment, and then so we built a screen wall just to shield them, so that way they had a nicer architectural wall to go look at. And those are all things that they'll do just to make sure that, again, they want to be a net positive impact on the community. And I hate to even say like, oh, those are small dollars, but in the grand scheme of things, those are small dollars and well spent when you have neighbors that are happy that you're there, and they're willing to do it time and time again.
Well, that was one of the other things is some of our people were concerned about using some of our good Iowa farm ground, for a data center. But like what I've been watching them do over there at Lincoln, it's like they took a piece of ground that was a little less desirable for a lot of things. Because they're putting there's a serious sized construction, dirt moving crew that's out there doing things. So to me, how far out do they like to be away from the town? Does it matter? I mean,
No.
what's the construction stuff you've done?
Honestly, they'll build wherever, whether it's in town or not. Obviously, if there's concerns with neighbors, they're gonna stay away. But they like being closer to towns than further out. But the land that is maybe a little bit less desirable to one industry could absolutely be right in their wheelhouse. If it's already flat and the grading isn't terrible, then they love it. They love it even more, and that allows them to go and sites. They'll look for sites generally that can fit more than one building. You're probably going to anymore probably a 3 building campus, which can be anywhere between 100 and 150 acres. Some of these sites they're trying to go after 1,000 acres at a time because they want to go put 12 buildings on it and say this is where they're going to go be. Um, data hall data centers can be the ones that you probably see out there the most, and I would be lying if I told you I've looked at some of them out there. Are probably single-story buildings. Ones that we're building throughout Dallas. In some cases, we're looking at 3 or 4 story data centers. A little bit different topology, but it takes a footprint, and that's just how they're going to go fit it into the space that they have allotted.
Do you ever foresee, Cole? I don't expect how you would, but since what's changed over the last 18 years, do you ever see a case where data centers could be antiquated, where they are no longer needed, or not, or will the need just become greater and greater over time as AI and all this increases?
I mean, it would break my heart if they became antiquated because that's the business what we do. But I say that it's funny. We're going in and there's people buying old data centers and they're just updating them to today's technologies. Ever since I thought the whatever as we're building out the 2000 people were building based on forecasts, right? We're gonna sell this, and right now we're building based on needs that needed yesterday. And so the time that after you built a data center before it was fully loaded, 10 years ago might have been 3, 4, 5 years before that data center got built out. And today those things are being loaded, to its max within less than a year because of the extreme demand. So we're not, if you listen to the data center developers, the construction teams aren't building them fast enough, or as many as they want fast enough. So as AI continues and self-driving technology and the Internet of Things, where people got, as Craig, you and I talked about this, right? When COVID happened, right, data center building went up because people more went online, and as you continue to see that with cars, you continue to see that with residential appliances and the phones people carry, and you kind of just go down this whole line. I don't see a point where data centers are ever gonna be antiquated. I hope I hope someday that it goes back and kind of dials back in, because right now what we're doing is crazy, and it's pretty extreme, and it's stretching people in a lot of different ways. And so I think a lot of people would say, a 10%, 15% cut back on the amount of data centers being built probably wouldn't be a bad thing, so we could all breathe. But I don't see it happening. And talking to the clients right now, and the Googles and the Metas and the Amazons, they want to go faster.
Okay, so in our ordinance, we have a part in there that talks about decommission, that if a data center ever decommissioned or didn't work for 2 years, here's what you have to do. And you're saying they don't really care what you would put in an ordinance about decommission, because they don't ever foresee not using the data center, really.
Yeah.
So you can have a pretty strict part in there about the decommissioning of it, because they're like, well, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And I also read, just for that, as far as the small data centers, that a lot of people that you said, like when they started, it was 2 to 4 megawatts, that now those smaller needs, I guess, are being met by these large data centers that lease out space to these smaller people. So those people don't have to build small ones. Is that
Yes.
true also?
Yeah, so colo providers, where they're building data halls based on what they're going to go rent out, and so some people, they're renting out an entire data hall, they're renting out an entire building, they're renting out an entire campus, and then there's others that they specialize in we're going to go rent out a rack, we're going to rent out one row of this because that's what some mom and pop shop need for their data and network needs. Um, so they'll go, from small to large, and then once power is at a facility, again, they don't want to just give that up, and so they're figuring out ways how they go back into those data centers. And we've done, a handful of like brownfield type stuff, or reno type stuff, where we're gutting out some old data centers and just bringing new equipment in. Seeing how we can increase the capacity and utilizing that space.
Gene has a question for you.
Have there been any studies concerning the health effects, health hazards to the employees? There's some studies that maybe for cancer. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you I've heard of something or not. I've certainly heard that brought up, but not to my knowledge that there's been any type of study on that. So I don't want to, give you my thoughts and opinions.
Yeah, Ty, go ahead.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, we have been building.
Go ahead.
We've been building data centers, like I said, so Holder was one of the first companies that's been building data centers since back in like 1996, when we did a data center for UPS. Holder's probably been a top #1 builder in data centers over the past decade. And this industry, I would say, is probably one of the ones that have been under the limelight the most recently. There's a company called Data Center Coalition out there, who is trying to dispel any and every negative that maybe gets brought up around data centers. And so I expect them to probably come out with something on there. But within that industry, and this is not me trying to be mean, people kind of laugh at that notion that there's some sort of impact or health impact associated with working around network and chips and stuff like that. So.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Cole, I do have another question on the, you brought up the, like damage, that somehow the water could get out of there because of damage, or whether it's a broke pipe. So when you're building these, it seems to me it'd be probably elementary for an engineer, but do you build them for the environment? Like we're subject to tornadoes. It wasn't that many years ago we had one cut through the county. So when you're building these, is that all taken into consideration
I mean, like, I'm not necessarily wanting you to build a bunker, but if one of them got built around here, I'd like to know that it's gonna stand up to top category tornado, just so it wouldn't be a problem. And obviously, they probably want it because the internet's got to function the day after the tornado. So, I mean, what kind of construction do you do with that in mind?
Absolutely. We built some you mentioned a bunker, but we built some in a lot of different areas that have been, certainly tornado proof. We build data centers in Oklahoma right now. And they'll go be designed, at least the box of where the data is and the equipment is, they'll go build that to like withstand 160 to 200 mile an hour, depending on however whatever they determine that they want to go do in that area to go withstand that. Ultimately they'll probably build the office area as a little bit more prototypical construction, maybe 100 mile an hour rated type stuff, but they will build that to go withstand a tornado, without a doubt. Are they going to be back up in operations the next day? Maybe, maybe not. There could be some impacts that go beyond there. One thing that they do now, and is they've got so much redundancy. It used to always be equipment redundancies and equipment protection that they had at the site, and now the redundancies exist via software. So you have a Microsoft data center that goes offline in Des Moines, and they've got another Microsoft data center that all that traffic and information will fail over to, in Wyoming. And so they look at their redundancies a little bit more from a geographical perspective, but they're building in mind that they're going to go withstand the area. We've done some crazy stuff. I'll tell you one. They have different tiers of data centers. I don't know if you're aware of that. There's a company or an organization called the Data Center Uptime Institute, and they rank data centers based on different tiers on what it would take for this data center to go down and be out. And there are data centers that go up to tier 4, which it's gonna take an act of God to go figure out how to go get that thing down. Most data centers are being built right now around a tier 3 topology, which means that they believe they're going to be up like 99.9% of the time. And that's
Yeah, cool. We've kept you a long time. I just,
Yeah.
Dave
No.
or Kyle, does anybody else have any questions or
Good
anyone
information.
from our audience, if they had any questions for Cole, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer. But any other questions from the board? If not, Cole, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Very much.
It's nice that we can, I guess, take from someone who has a wealth of knowledge in this area that we as a board really don't have that kind of knowledge. So it's nice to rub shoulders with someone who does. Makes us all feel a little more intelligent. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I certainly appreciate the invite, and feel free to reach out if you have anything else, and if not, everybody enjoy their 4th of July, and
Thank you.
Cole, thank you.
With that, I guess, Colin, we'll let you kind of come up and I'm sure we want to go over, we all had a chance to read through the ordinance, and I'm sure you're looking for feedback and what you'd
So this is just, we're like we talked about last week, we're just going round for round. It's been proven a bit of a challenge to incorporate so many kind of disparate comments and suggestions and wants into a coherent document. So what I would caution when you read what I just handed out is that it's a draft. It's not a final form. First and foremost, the formatting needs work. That's the last thing I'll do is ever work on the consistent format. But that aside, I had a conversation with Ty last week about adjusting the final approval process. The one that was circulated last week had kind of a stratified approach that the small scale centers would be approved by right, which means if they followed the rules of the ordinance, they would just be issued a permit by right. And then The medium and small scale were subject to special use exceptions. If they needed more, they would have to go to review. And then finally, large scale would need final approval by the board for anything large scale. Ty approached me about wanting the board to have final approval on all scales, not just large scales. So I've tried to incorporate that into this most recent one that I've circulated. Now, it's kind of like a balloon. You know, you squeeze or remove one part and another part kind of balloons out the other side. So if there are some inconsistencies, it's because we're just working out the kinks at this point. So there might be other provisions that were left over from last time that seem to be in contradiction of this new final approval process as envisioned that the board would have.
I just thought it was more important that the group that's elected by the people have the final say. What do you guys think that's, I mean, the zoning and planning, I think you want everybody to bring, whether it's electric or water people, I mean, whoever's, you know, involved in the process, you want to be able to hear from all of them. And then those of us that are most influenced by the public would have the final say on, you know, negotiating on the public's behalf, you know, just see what I mean? That's why I was talking about that.
The question that I have on that number 4, I don't know that page. So it says by a public hearing, would that be 3 hearings or do you need to take that out or would it just be?
So that's underlined as whether or not that's something that you want.
That's usually they are the 3 hearings. And
Sure.
I
I mean, if that's something you guys want. So section 4 is the application process. And right now it envisions application to the zoning administrator. The zoning administrator will then review it to make sure the application complies with the ordinance and review it and then pass it along to the commission for public comment and then finally, and then recommendation and then finally sent to the board. Now that's just an extra step. I don't know if you guys want that, but I included it just to have it in there, just to kind of give you guys a flavor. If you want a more streamlined process, then you could easily kind of chop out the commission review and the public review at that level, and then have the public review when it reaches your desk for final approval.
It does make an extra step and it does stretch it out quite a ways.
I wondered if everyone got one. In subsection 1 of section 4, the application requirements, there are some suggested application requirements. I think I got them from staff. I'm pretty sure I did.
Last page.
Last page, yeah. Side, it says side notes. It's above the blocked off section from that.
So red is what you added from the week before.
It's either additions or comments about the additions, yeah.
When I read section 4 and I look at the process, that seems like that would take about 2 or 3 months.
Well, don't we generally, if we're having public hearings, we can have the first public hearing you gotta have.
Yeah.
Then we could, but if there's not a turnout, I mean, we can basically waive the other 2.
But there's going to be a public hearing here that the planning and zoning is going to have a public. So just, I don't know. Just looking at it, it seems like the process, once you have an application, I don't know if there's any urgency to getting it done, but it does seem pretty drawn out. Public hearing here, another public, which could possibly be 3 people only get together once a month or
Seems a little redundant.
a little bit. That's
Where
the only
If
reason
we
I'm
have
bringing
public
that up.
hearings here, you know that whoever needs to come can comment.
Right.
If we have to have 3, you have 3.
Yeah, I mean, I underlined it just to bring your
I know.
attention to
And I-
it. You guys just let me know what you want.
That's why I'm bringing it out to see what everybody else
That's a
thinks
great
about
point.
that process. You know, once we've got it hammered out,
Well, I wonder how many people would even attend one of those versus ours,
Correct.
because they know that
correct?
Well, that's what I mean. Do we have to, is it required by law that the others have public hearings? That would be my question.
No, the application process does not need to include a public hearing by the zoning commission.
But
I
through here, we would want a public hearing, so.
And have the right to waive the second, third,
So,
depending on the complexity.
So we can chop out 3 altogether. if you
I
guys don't
almost,
like it.
I feel it's so redundant, and when I read it, it just seems cumbersome to, just for an application. I just go.
I think attendance would like to be better at our board. public
I think
hearing.
you'd want them at our board.
Yes,
Planning and
absolutely.
zoning and all that.
Yep,
Yeah, I
that's-
agree. I agree.
That's just a thought, as I kind of went through.
Good point.
Highlighted that. Yes.
Iowa code otherwise.
So, and I just wanted to clear on that same page where that number there, where the application is, just above that, it says section 3, general provisions. And it says this ordinance applies to all data centers within Crawford County. So that includes incorporated areas, or are we just affecting unincorporated areas for this ordinance?
It would probably have to be the
Unincorporated,
I think we should probably add that,
because the city of Denison does not have to abide by this ordinance.
Correct. They can have their own.
Right.
That's good, yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully they're building one. Or any of the other communities.
Or any of the, right, I just, right.
I mean,
Right.
I guess, is it ever worded that you could, that a community of desired could fall under the county ordinance? Is that how they can that be worked? I mean, like just say,
I think
Ricketts, who's
city of
still a
Schleswig,
community of their own, if
right,
it
I
was
think
not
it's-
close to them, they could say, yeah, we're, it's within the scope of our city our city boundaries, part of it, but we go by the county's ordinance or whatever. I mean, can they do that?
If they want to default to the county ordinance,
Might be easier
they would
to
have to do
reinvent the
something
wheel.
to announce that. But yeah, they could definitely do that.
Okay.
I think the city council of each of those.
Right.
I would just think of the smaller ones may not want to go through all the
Correct,
correct.
I agree.
But if they
Say
can
if
read
it's good
ours
enough
and
for
say,
the
well,
county,
that's,
it's good enough for us.
well, and if they read it and think, oh, that's a pretty good ordinance, we could just default to that. Okay.
I would highly recommend they.
So one thing that's been jumping out to me is section 6, subsection A. It was a preferred lot size. I don't know if you guys really just want that at all. It came to me as a suggestion, and so it's kind of been grandfathered in the various
I don't think,
drafts that I've been given to you guys, but if it's, I would caution against putting preferences and non-mandatory things into an ordinance.
yeah. You could work out deals, like where you're doing your pollinator, you can work out a deal with the people that wanted to do it if possible. But I don't think that kind of stuff needs to be in the ordinance either. I mean, I think that's a good point. I don't anticipate for our electric supply or water supply that we're gonna have one of them 200-acre facilities show up here.
But the data center company itself would say, here's the size that I need based on the size of the
And
data
if they
center.
can
I wanna
acquire the
build.
property from farmers, and,
Right,
I'm never gonna tell a farmer what they can or can't do on their land, or try not to ever anyway.
So in section 4, subsection 5, which is the approval criteria and decision, which will get its own number eventually, but I couldn't figure out the formatting to make decision have its own number, so it's the top of the following page. Talks about the board's decision on an application for data center. It does include the options for the board to be, when presented with an application for final approval, you can approve it with conditions, or deny it altogether. So if the board does have a lot size preference, you could express it at that point.
At that point.
And then also underneath that point, there is a provision that I forget where I came across it, but I just put it in there purely for options. Any conditions imposed. So this is in the event that you pass an application with conditions attached. Any conditions imposed shall be reasonably related to the purposes of this ordinance and should be supported by the record developed during the application process. So that is kind of But that it does two things, or maybe even more than that, but the two things that jump out at me, if you want anything like that, if you don't, then we'll just drop it, but it limits your discretion on putting conditions on data centers. The limitation would have to be reasonably related to the ordinance, and would have to be reasonably related to something that come up through the application process itself. It could be where it's at, could be access to power, access to water, whatever it may be, but it has to be an issue that was kind of developed in the record during that particular application process. So that is a limiter on your guys' discretion. On the other hand, it protects against arbitrary conditions being imposed. Maybe you guys want the ability to impose arbitrary conditions, I don't know. But that's kind of what it does. It does limit you, but it also protects, I guess, gives more certainty to potential data centers coming in, that they would say, okay, well, if there are conditions, it's not just gonna be willy-nilly.
I think that's important, you know, because you never know, we're making rules for future boards to have to work with. And I mean, we wouldn't want somebody intentionally making it, you know, hard or easy for future board or for us. So I don't think we should do that to a future board either. Or the future, you know, development of Crawford County. I mean, we don't know what's coming down the road. But if we stick close to the ordinance, and we've already said it before, you know, stay similar from ordinance to ordinance, don't, you know, don't step too far out of bounds. I think if we're gonna do any kind of conditions, it needs to be consistent with what the ordinance is imposing, you know. Otherwise, you could get just some, you know, 3 people on a board, or if somebody got their way to 2 people on a board to, you know, do something down the road that just because of spite or because it doesn't fit their personal wants. You know, we're supposed to work for the folks, not for us, you know. So I think you don't want to get too far away from the ordinance. That's my opinion.
I think it's.
I agree with you, Ty.
And then Steph, I hate to put you on the spot. I know I just gave that to you a little bit ago, but do you have any thoughts, chime in on the stuff we've been talking about?
I do, if you don't mind. I looked at it real quick. There's a couple of things in here, just like you guys were talking about that timeline. That timeline is huge, making that go through that process. We have lost projects because the project is gonna take too long to go through this, because
that jumped out.
like Cole talked about, you know, they wanna be on in 12 months now, not 3 years.
Yeah.
We're at the 12 months, 18-month line to get them power. Okay, so every one of these things are in front of that.
Yeah.
So that adds, and if they look at these things and go, well, it's gonna be 3 months through here and that.
Yep.
We're out.
That would be
It did
for
seem very.
EMU or anybody,
Yeah.
similar.
Right, so a lot of those things we're looking at right now is the chance to put the rules in play. What do the rules need to be? And I just would encourage you that, like we said, if there's not a special exception or they did meet the rules to be looked at, why do we have to go through all these steps again?
It just seems so cumbersome.
Are there any other ones on there that you, or when you look through there, we talked about getting rid of one, are there other ones that you want to see eliminated?
Most of the comments my comments are on there.
Okay.
There are a couple of things, I still have a question of like small scale data centers. We still don't have ag under small scale, and I don't know why.
Agriculture A?
Yeah,
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I don't know why that's not there yet, and we talked about it a few times, because even where our substations sit, those are ag. So that would mean that, you know, we're working under ag for things like that. I'm not sure why ag would be here. Ag to me is 95% of where these are going to go, so why don't we have it on that list is okay. I could see the special exception being for maybe the rural residential, if, you know, if it's not meeting everything, right? It's back to that, okay, we gotta make exceptions because they can't meet the noise, they can't meet this or that. I see that, but if the other things are met, why do we need to go through the whole process every time? The other piece with it would be size. I know I brought up at the beginning that I think our small, medium scale sizing is very small. Cole spoke to it here too. You know, he's on a different realm, right, of what he can get. They are a deregulated state versus a regulated state, which has a big difference in that. Their transmission lines are a totally different level. They are their own grid. So we're gonna have our distribution grid that's us. NIPCO is going to be the transmission to that. Our max size right now
coming in is 167 kVA, meaning that nothing larger than 30 megawatt total could be at one site. So right now, a lot of these, right now scale for small is at 20, typical is 25 and under is definitely small scale in the realm. And that keeps moving all the time because what pole can't take or they won't look at is kind of what's gonna come our way, right? And so if you look at that one, then the medium, really up to 75 kW or 75 to 80 is kind of your medium, top medium scale now. Right now, we're cutting ours up to 50. I think that's a little low.
Will you be expanding your grid though, for obvious reasons?
That grid isn't going to get expanded unless it also goes back into rates or there's a reason to expand that. So right now, the rates would have to skyrocket for us to do that. We're limited. That's back to, if we can get them to expand that.
That's
what
my
we
point
need to do.
though, is that if these, we wouldn't have any reason to expand unless some of these things are coming in. And you've already stated that they will help provide their own infrastructure. So if they needed to go to that 100 to 120, okay, we could do that in WIPCO, but this is what it's gonna cost you, so it don't cost our current people. So I think, I don't know, I'm just, when I'm talking, you know, like out there in Loudoun County, or, you know, like out of cold on this messaging here, you know, if they really wanted to be here because, you know, we were somebody good to work with and it's a great location for where they want to have a data center, they might be willing to work with us on that, you know, which benefits you, obviously, and I'm sure it certainly benefits the rest.
Right, the 100, 200, you know, that, you talk like a mile, 2 miles, we're talking like 50 miles. I mean, it's, you know, that's not gonna happen. We're not even in that scale scope. I mean, we're in the billions of dollars and to build a 20 megawatt setup where you can get a 700 megawatt for the billions, right? So we're already limited to a point.
So are you saying, Stephanie, that if a small to medium sized data center came to Crawford County that you guys supply energy to, that the cost of your energy would go up substantially until you would be able to create more energy, or?
No, they can't come online until it's available to them. So all of
you
these
would have to
spots are
make all
available.
your improvements would have to be done before it would, okay.
And so when they talk, like he talked 12 months, you know, 12 months, 18 months, 3 years, whatever it be, that's the time frame when they can come online, because they cannot come online until it's ready.
Okay.
Nobody else can be impacted.
Okay.
Those improvements have to be done before they can come on.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna back up, for your small scale and medium scale, you're thinking it's more appropriate to up the megawatts to like small 30 and medium.
Is there a reason
75.
why we even differentiate them?
That's, yeah.
I mean, why
Well,
do we,
before
why
it
do we,
was,
why do we care?
Well, before there was,
OWY. They're not state treasurer.
What's that?
I think somebody's.
What's your name?
ROBY.
ROBY.
Okay.
Subject egg. Like NAG. NAIG.
If you're not meaning to talk to our board, could you please mute your device?
We could have Ryan, if Ryan can come up.
Mike, Nate,
Ryan, get him.
NAEG.
NAIG.
IG. Okay. Wait a minute.
Okay.
So back to your question of the
Yeah.
size, I think the size originally was put in there versus what is application to what special use, right?
Right.
And so really, if we're looking at small and medium can go in the same areas without special use, I don't think you have to distinguish that. I think we're really,
Okay.
here's the line that now is a special use permit.
Attorney General.
yeah, I mean,
I
that,
just would hate to say that we're out because you're 10 over our threshold that we actually could be able to get to.
Right, that's what I was getting at. I didn't know if wait 30 or
Right, so if
75.
we get to where an area that we could pull together, we could probably get about that 60 would probably be a max at one location. Now, can another one be down the road from it, you know, how they serve? Possibly, but If we pulled everything
I'd take
together,
another
we pulled and
substation too,
upgraded
though.
everything, new substation, all of that, you're talking maybe that 67. That's why I said, if we could up that over 50, I would hate to be able to get to 60, we gotta say 50 is your threshold.
So other than the previous permitting scheme, which the small, medium, large is more important, now it's kind of all roads stop at the board. The importance or the impact of a small, medium, large distinction would be where they can go. As far as rural, residential, because on page, I don't have the numbers, but in section 5.
Right.
Section 5 is the place where the ordinance will designate, what scale data center can go where in the.
And did you change the small scale to agriculture A as an option?
I had made a note to do that, yeah, but so, if you don't want that separation, if you just want kind of, instead of the ordinance deciding, that the board would just decide if a large center can go in a certain area just based on the, the facts and whatever, we can take all that out.
We always have to take into consideration what our power or our water.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
That to me, if Steph can't go over 60, we're foolish to say, yeah, bring in 100.
Right.
And then the water supply, do we make it where closed loop is mandatory or not?
No, we're too small a scale. You're gonna see that.
I'm talking about for water.
A 5 or 10 could come in, which, is a drop in the bucket to those large scales. They're not gonna be closed loop, they're gonna be air cooled, but they're gonna be able to stand up the noise violations.
So just make sure you stay within
If
the
they could
noise.
get that small, they're not even coming out that small right now, but they're saying 3-4 years from now, they might do that because they need speed to market and capacity isn't there, right? So to not have.
So these aren't gonna be like the small that aren't gonna end up being like the currency data.
They might be all together, they might campus, back he said, where they can have.
Yeah, I'm against having the portable. It serves no real big benefit.
There is a big benefit.
What is the benefit?
There is a big benefit. So if you look at the portable, I would call it portable, it's on cement slats sitting over by Ute, right? Yeah. Okay, that is go up to 6 megawatts. That right there, is, oh gosh. It is, how many times larger than our largest load? I gotta think of it.
So it's a big benefit
Yeah,
to you.
it's like a third of our system sitting right there.
So
And
it's a
so
big
that
benefit
coming
to the
in used
electric.
up extra capacity that was sitting on the substation, that otherwise you pay for the substations no matter what, right? Our substations sit there, the members pay if that's being used or not. So that's been sitting there with very low usage for a very long time. They were able to fill the rest of that to the capacity we'd allow them. And so that's kilowatt hours being sold that goes across the whole membership. So those little ones are huge, because that means we can get them on within the time they want at our substations with expansion. Otherwise, you're pretty much saying.
How does that benefit the rest of the county? That's where we could ask. How does that benefit the rest of the county?
So all of the members that are out in the county that are Woodco members and stuff, they're benefiting from that, because more kilowatt hours that are sold, all of your costs that are set costs, fixed costs, all those things get spread out across that. So that's huge. So I would encourage.
Is this a good analogy? So it'd be like a hotel that's only 75% full and they come in and fill the other 25% and it lowers everybody's room rate.
Yeah. Well, wait.
Is that how I'm thinking?
Push the room rate up?
No, lowers.
Lower, yes, it's gonna lower it, so.
I mean, that's in my mind,
Yeah.
that's.
Right, say we've got all of our substations out there, you pay if they're used or not, you pay for it to sit out there, you pay for poles, wires, all of that. If 1 kilowatt hour goes down it, or 200,000 go down it, that still exists, those costs, and that's gotta get spread over what's out there. So when we can sell more kilowatt hours, hands down, that helps all the membership.
I don't know, the peak hours with the data center, is that gonna raise our average, peak hour? Is that-
So a data center is consistent unless you would bring them down. They're gonna run the same all of the time.
Okay, they're not gonna,
They're not the ones that want to go up and down.
okay,
The data centers want to be consistent.
all right.
If you could control them or curtail them, it's about 5 to 12% max.
So I'm concerned about these portable guys. I mean, they're here today, gone tomorrow. Why do they need to be portable?
It's where they're going and where they can get inside postal substations. For example, I'll use the one.
Well, build a building by the substation.
They're right, and so they're portable units because they're on lease land.
I can see you doing that.
They don't own the property.
They don't own the property.
Yeah, I
So they
agree.
sign long-term lease, they sign long-term, electric service agreements.
What is
required
their tax benefit then?
On a portable, I don't know what that is for. I don't. Right. But we still don't want to turn it away. Granted, it's not gonna get us a tax on that one, but we still don't want to turn it away.
Well, if it's eating up your power, we're not getting a permanent structure.
It's power we need to stop. Without allowing them, you're restricting us from selling power. You know, we're limiting from selling a product. That's gonna help the rest of the members.
So are we saying we want to take the small scale, medium and condense that? Or is that where that's actually written? Is that what this?
I think you need to try to decide where do you want a special use permit, right? What's okay, to what size and where do you want to make your special use permit? I think what we're looking at now is, like I commented before, a small and medium scale. By breaking those out, they definitely could fall in one scale for water and another scale for electric by having small and medium separate, but we're using the same application, and if they're following the rules, I don't know why we need the small and medium separate, unless you just want to have it there just for reference. They're gonna follow the same rules, they're gonna follow the same noise, they're gonna follow the same things. That makes sense. If they couldn't follow one of those, that's where they would want to file a special use permit, come and say, this is what we got, what we needed.
Where is the special use permit in this? What page is that on, that talks about the special use permit?
It was, I think I actually took it out.
Took it out?
It was more important when there was that stratified approval process based on the scale of the data center, which we've been talking about. We can adjust those numbers. But if they wanted a special use permit, they could apply for one.
I think we're going to have special use permits still for rural residential, right? Is that the optional, or does that not say that? Or call it?
I know, like I said earlier, you know, trying to incorporate everyone's suggestions into a coherent document is proven difficult.
Yep. Right now, saying optional, to me, probably these optional would require special use permit. Is that what maybe you were going with, switching those two out?
No, that makes sense. I was actually going for whether or not you wanted to be included in that
Include
subsection.
right up front, if they
Yeah.
follow the things, you
Yeah.
could do that, or if that's an area that you say, gosh, we want to be able to review those, I don't have to be a special use permit.
And is there any, in section 7, when it talks about the noise, is there any reason why one is 70 decibels and one's 75? You know, why aren't they just the same to make it simple?
Don't we just have a concurrent decibel that we should just use across the county?
You would think it would match
What the wind
what
turbines
the
gotta
wind
do, whatever.
turbines are from the same distance.
I think that's what we need.
That we're not.
Need to go back and look at our wind turbine.
Right, I tried to find that
I just asked
online.
Cal here, remember if it was 60 or.
I mean, I thought online, I went to the ordinances and it's not there. To me, they should all be the same.
I think so.
Look under permitting.
Permitting?
Yeah, don't look under ordinance, look under permitting.
Which one? Which number do you want to go with?
So we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
While we're in section 7, do we want to maybe consider having like a baseline evaluation of the proposed site? Acoustical evaluation, because I mean, it could be
You're
next
ready
to
for
a
that
train.
before, so you're asking for them to give you the noise when it's not there. You can't go out and check noise when it has been built.
My thought is you could be up against something that's already there exceeding the decibel levels already.
And this is gonna add to it, which is, I got
Not
you.
add to it or just be equal to it, you know, so somebody can't complain that, you know, the acoustics have
That
went
they
up.
caused it.
Yeah.
I gotcha. That makes sense.
You're sitting next to the co-op where the bin fans are running
Right.
24 hours a day, every day.
Somebody's generator is gonna be 130.
Yeah.
The bid fans, yeah, I think they're 110 to 140. I think we went through some of those things. So yeah, I see what you're saying. That could be above that level already.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's zero now, I mean, it's
No,
zero.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've seen the other side. I'm like, oh wait, you can't get that because it's not there yet.
Why we hammer it out.
Yeah.
All right.
Division out of that.
Making progress.
Yep.
So we do this.
Yes.
So I guess on 3 of traffic on the same section, I think doing a road use and infrastructure agreement for the larger scale project that some of the board and the supervisor, engineer all agree on establishing haul routes and stuff like that. So we're tearing up our roads, they're gonna provide dust control or.
Okay. They'll have to meet all that stuff. Same thing we do with the, and some, I've talked to some of them, they actually, like, just say you went out south of west side or, west side's got a pavement, who don't have a pavement going to the south. But anyway, then they were, let's say 2 miles or 1.5 miles off that pavement, but they'd like to see that road upgraded to be pavement to their site.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Or we,
Yeah,
they come to terms.
Just like we do with the White Rock with people, when we go from a B to an A, you pay for it. And that all goes through traffic, you know, that meets the needs. What do you think?
I would think so.
You know, I can understand why they might want that for access to their site. But they should pay for it then. We make all our farmers pay for it now. Right?
Gene?
So the changes that we're gonna see is on section 3, we're gonna add unincorporated, Crawford County within unincorporated. And then we're gonna shorten down section 4 a little bit to where there's not so many public hearings.
We're getting rid of the planning and zoning commission review
Okay,
altogether.
all right. And then special use, are we doing anything there? Or is that
I can mock something up about special use permits for.
And that any conditions imposed, what about limiter? What was, do we have to add anything in that section, or is that staying the same?
Feedback I got is you guys want that.
Okay. All right, trying to get it down to where we can only look at this one more time and we have all of the little things kind of fixed that we talked about today, so we're not going back next week and thinking that was gonna get changed and it's still like Groundhog Day, it's still the same, and another week, got to kick it down the road another week. So I think our goal is to get this in place so that we have it, so if anybody's coming in, we have it. And we decided not to do a moratorium because we didn't want anybody, so we're kind of trying to keep it on track. So any other changes?
What else you got?
Well, those are the things that I.
The decibel level in section 7, the baseline acoustic.
Stephanie's got something.
In section 7, road use agreement, section 7.3.
Yep.
I mean, I'm okay, I guess, kicking it down the road as long as we work on it every week and it gets
Yeah.
better. I think we want to make sure we just have a really good finished product when
I
we're done.
agree.
I don't think we're too far off.
So section 7, the decimal baseline evaluation, can't check noise, okay, yep.
Yeah, Stephanie, you've got something.
The only other one I had is under the section 4 administration, under number 5, approval criteria, 5 and 6, just reading those are very subjective.
Yeah, and those are kind of more or less placeholders, just to give a flavor of the board of, I mean, we don't have to list approval criterion at all if you don't want to. Of course, including criterion in the ordinance gives people looking in from the outside more certainty on what their plan should include. It prevents the board from being more arbitrary in their approval process. But again, maybe you want that discretion. Maybe you don't want to be handcuffed by the rules you're making for yourself at this point.
So are you talking about the approval criteria in number 5?
Yeah, number 5 and 6, like
Is he
define that, right? Like
I don't see a number 6.
That's the discussion.
Go down
under
to,
number 5 and then 5 and 6. So approval criteria number 5.
Oh, I see,
And then there's
gotcha,
no full
right.
5 and 6.
okay.
How would we
I
define
mean,
it?
do you, I guess when I read through that, it looked like to me that, hey, if I'm a data center coming in, these are things that the Board of Supervisors are gonna be looking at. Do we need to tell them, or should that be known to them if they're gonna come here, that they should know what we're concerned about? Or I guess, what did you see when you read that? Cause I guess,
I read that to say that that's really, I mean, who determines that? That is opinionated to where, how do I know if I'm following that? How will I know what that rule is to meet that?
right,
And that's the tug and push and pull.
it
of
is
this whole thing.
opinionated, you're
How
right.
much control does the board want to have versus how much clarity do you want to provide to potential incomers? And that, I mean, it is vague, absolutely, but that vagueness is essentially discretion of the board. So do you want that discretion there, or do you not want to? I mean, we can always include a little provision, the board shall consider these standards among others that are appropriate to kind of make, these aren't just the only 6 things you look at. You always reserve the right to look at other things.
So do you think those are detrimental, or do you think,
Yeah.
you
Keep
think
in
that
mind, they're gonna have to pay for all these studies
right?
to determine if the site would work before they're gonna come to you. They're not gonna put the money in if they don't know what they're gonna be held up to that's different.
Steph, is there a way, I mean, I know what you're saying, I kind of subjective, but to emphasize that, hey, public health, safety, welfare, our ground and its use is important to us. I know that's broad and what does that mean, but is there a way to emphasize that is important to our community, but.
I would put it on your application, probably, or, because it's not something that's a yes or no, okay, you met the criteria, unless we have specific criteria for it.
We have the application written out. Just thinking about that, the application itself should weed out, and that would save a little bit, so.
Yeah, but they're gonna ask for your application and your ordinance.
Should be working on the application about the same time, so that we're not, get this all, and we don't, our application, we have to reinvent the wheel again when we're looking at application. So we have an example of an application we could,
I can go find one, but no.
I think it'd be good to start working on that.
I will. This is a tremendous project. I am lucky that Steph has been a huge benefit, as well as Ty's been great to work with, as behind the scenes. There was a county in Iowa that passed a resolution, I think it was Dubuque County, that their board had announced to their public that they want their ordinance to be online in 10 months. I will work on the ordinance for you guys. I will do my best to keep up the timeline that you guys seem to want, but you have to understand, I have a full office to run as well as cases and trials, including a murder trial coming up. My timeline right now might not fit your timeline completely, and I would just ask for that understanding.
Your application could come later, as long as we know that they're on that.
All right.
You know what I mean? I would want something to be in an application that they aren't aware of here, and I just don't want it to be subjected to it, where they say, you asked me to put $80,000 down to do a study, but I don't know what you're gonna ask me for that.
Right. I was just trying to,
Yeah.
if we're working on it, it can all.
I just got a couple more comments in section 9. Do we need to add a part where the may require request periodic coordination meetings with the CMA, EMS, and fire?
Yeah, I think they need to know how to help.
Yeah.
in the event of a disaster, outside of or inside of that structure.
We had a discussion on that last time, right?
We did. I think it's putting in here or you've done there, you know, that you have to have your contact number in an emergency, who they contact, those types of things, knowing what's in there. But if you put for every 5 years, you're pulling somebody to make sure that they're gonna walk through that every 5 years. I know we've asked for some certain things at our building to be checked for us. We haven't seen anybody in quite some time.
Sure.
Just to be fair, you're putting that in there, and then like all your other facilities we have in the county today, can we require them to do an inspection or a walkthrough every 5
We're
years?
supposed to, actually.
Yeah,
Fire chief.
Yeah, I would think something they should be doing walkthroughs.
it's just can be met, you know, where maybe there's a statement they have to fill out, you know, nothing has changed in the last 5 years, that they submit back, or, you know, something that they touched base. I just don't know what that is or what Zach's process is right now.
We do need to know what their special needs are, though. I mean, it's all electric. There's a ton of electric in there, so I mean, is there any special needs that our fire service needs to have to address a fire at that location? And how are you willing to support that? I mean, if it's a rural volunteer, just say you build it just south of West Side. West Side's volunteer department isn't gonna have a lot of the, if there's.
I don't know if they've got their own fire suppression systems inside or not. I mean, they want CO2 or something like that.
Your guys need to know what's in there.
Yeah. The only other thing in section 15, substantial operations. I think that might kind of go back to maybe your portable stuff. What defines substantial operations? I mean, our thought might be something different than theirs. Does it maintaining active commuting, either operations, or is it ongoing utility
I've
consumption?
noticed my notes.
Okay.
I hate to kick them off because they're down to 2 megawatt. I mean, that'd be on us to decide how we charge them and go refill that capacity. But I hate to say, you know, hey, you're down to this level, you have to go.
Right, so that's substantial operations is kind of open-ended.
What special security do these, I mean, most of them provide their own security at a guard shack and they're got a fence around the place. I mean, what kind of coordination would they need to have with the sheriff department or local PD? I mean, I'm still on the fight, you brought up the fire suppression stuff, I mean, PD. I mean, you don't want deputies rolling out there and get told at the gate, you're not allowed here or that, but you just got an emergency in there or whatever, you see what I'm saying?
What if this said something about, you know, they're required to submit this whole plan with their application to show what it is, required to do a walkthrough before going online, and that it's up to them as a requirement to submit and read changes of the facility.
And I think if they did that through EMA, since we have an EMA that functions as one now, maybe if we just go, if they just submitted all that through EMA can coordinate with the sheriff or fire service, whatever.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm looking at? That's where my mind is sitting over here spinning. I haven't even
Well,
heard the last
maybe
3 minutes of what you're
EMA
talking
could be
about.
kind of the quarterback of that deal.
Yeah, that's what, and that's his job. I mean, we got it. Yeah, it's well used.
So back to substantial operations, if we want to, we can abandon that provision altogether, but staff, if someone submits what our ordinance as written now at least would be considered a small scale data center. So they submit plans for their capacities not to exceed 20 megawatt. I mean, they would reserve the option to run lower, right? 20 would just be their ceiling.
It would be in our electric service agreement that if you don't take this, you're gonna be charged this. I mean, we're gonna cover our costs that way. There's really nothing, I don't think on an ordinance side, it's more of,
Okay.
we're gonna say, you're gonna pay based on, you said you need this, you're gonna pay for what you said you need.
Well, I was
I
just,
think that's more on the utility side, same thing
Okay.
for water. They're gonna pay for what they said they were gonna need that we built to.
okay. But I was just thinking for a definition of substantial operations, if they're paying, their contract is for 20, and let's say if the board could, if they were operating at 5, you know.
Or I think that would probably be a board's thing, and be back on the utility.
No, it wouldn't be a pay thing, but as far as, if we want to keep a substantial operations provision in the decommissioning section, and the question came up, how do you define where what a ceasing of substantial operations even are. So if the board were to create a definition in the ordinance about substantial operations is operating at less than 50% of your utility rate or whatever it is. If you're saying you use 20, you're paying for 20, but you're only using 9.
I'm okay with that.
I mean,
No matter what.
I guess I'm fine with that part too.
Yeah.
But it's-
Yeah, and then I'm not trying to get
Everybody
in the contract part
I'm
of
just
it,
thinking, I
you know
don't think
what
it
you're
has to go to
selling.
the board for
Pay
that
for your
piece,
big
or,
use.
you know,
So
But yeah, I
substantial
think-
operation significant enough in that definition, or is it, should we?
that might be something I'm looking for, like, I don't know, I mean, to us, no. They're gonna keep paying taxes, the building's there, they're gonna keep paying whatever we put them on agreements with. I don't know if that's necessarily what has to be here.
The paying for the infrastructure to get there. Obviously, you don't want it just to leave, but you're not out anything if it's just sitting there idle, because they're paying for it.
Yeah.
So,
We're gonna have provisions, we're gonna keep paying for it, or we're gonna ask them to release
So
that.
that begs the question, does the board want a decommissioning section? If it's gonna sit there idle and they're paying anyway, do you
Is
want?
there ever a point where they can take the insides of the data center and move that to a different data center, just leave the building blank and not use any additional water or any additional electricity at all? Right?
Still pay the same tax. You're still gonna get your taxes and we're still gonna get our agreements.
That's on a permanent structure. Be on the board.
They signed for so many years.
Yeah.
So if they took the whole thing and disappeared, they're still
I don't know if we want
obligated
to eliminate the section.
How long
I
is
think
your
you need to
contract
make sure
in
you're
place?
doing one thing, look at this
We want to
from
have some.
every perspective, not just electric.
I just think
No,
somebody don't hog
Because
farm.
right now,
Just fall in this.
you're just fine with the county not making anything extra affordable. You know, other than it benefits people using electricity or what you're making.
I think you're reading much.
I mean, I,
Maybe just
if we're gonna use some of your power, you only have so much of the supply available to you. I
maintain
really
that
see that contributing to a larger cost.
I'll think on that.
But it
We'll
goes
move
back
in the next
to-
round.
operation,
I don't think-
ongoing power consumption or something.
We have liability to serve, we were required to serve. If they came
Try
to
to
me and I
define
had
that
power
a little
available,
bit.
I have to serve them. I'm required to
I
serve.
get that, but if we, you know, I'm not a big fan of the ordinance, I really am.
So how long do they sign a contract with you that they're gonna purchase that amount of energy?
So it depends on the contract, so I can't say out loud what they would be.
Oh,
because
so
every
it's different.
contract-
They negotiate with you,
Mhm.
okay.
So, I guess with that road use agreement, be more in the application process,
What do you consider that?
the same way with.
I can incorporate some language in there that, along with the application, so that
The application, the road use agreement, the infrastructure agreement, I'd be more an application of like a rural, because going back to your point of 5 and 6 in the approval agreement, maybe we could put some stuff in the application that says we would surely like you to use rural character development, pollinator stuff, and might explore more points or something. Or was that, should that be in the ordinance? I mean,
You're getting into the
Whole
point of
kind of-
that they're gonna require them to buy extra acres to do that, it's kind of hard to hit some of those things. It's no different, we put in the solar fields, right? It was recommended to have pollinators, so we did it in a couple sites, until it hasn't worked well for us. So we're gonna have to put more money, but nobody required us to do it, it was just recommended to do that, the
I think
ground
that's
cover.
something just negotiate.
Is that negotiable, just more negotiable? Yeah. Okay.
I don't think you need that in an ordinance, I think that's just negotiable.
But where is it negotiated? That's the thing, they're gonna wanna know upfront, is that something that's gonna pop up later, or is that something that's
It's
just?
gonna happen at this board. What's gonna happen?
Suppose that would be, the negotiation would be spurred by public.
Community benefits.
Somebody comes in and like I said, down in Booyer Township, where only about 30 people live. All day and not run into anybody. Our blade men say that they like blade down there because they don't have to pick up and pull off the side of the road. Nobody would even maybe oppose it down there, so why would you need a lot of extra fluff in the ordinance saying that?
Right, they wanna know what the rules are, right, up front.
So I guess if you get a lot of public scrutiny and they still wanna build in East Boyer Township, then negotiations would be on the table with some of the things, right? That's what I'm trying to think
In
of.
my mind, that's a special exception or a special use that we put in. Right now, we're laying out what we want
Is
from
that
them, right?
ordinance worthy or is that just application worthy or? You know, they come and say, well, we're gonna build an 18-hole.
You can't put everything into the ordinance, so it would be into a negotiation.
We really want it here, it's close to water, it's
This
close
is
to
the
power.
safety.
It'd be money ahead building a golf course around this versus then locating over here. I'm hypothetically, I'm just, you know, really exaggerating, but is that ordinance or is that application? Or is that just something that they bring to us board and say, hey, we can make special considerations for us because we were willing to go this far to build it at this site.
It's a good question, Kyle. I mean, you
More to think on.
right.
I think what I'm hearing Steph say is that they don't want unknowns. They want to know,
Right.
as much as we can, here's our ordinance for safety or.
If we meet the rules, we know we meet the rules. If they can't meet the rules, then that's asking for special requests, right? Because, like I said, they are gonna get to this level until they've spent all the study money. And they're gonna spend the study money if they don't know what they're up against next.
We're trying to hammer that out.
I think the question of like if people are against it, things like that, it kind of comes at the ordinance level now, not at necessarily the individual application.
So before they invest any money in you, they're gonna look through the ordinance, look through the application. And before they do anything, see if there's anything that they can't overcome. If they look through it and go, oh, nothing in there that doesn't scare me. Now they work with you.
They can't. I mean, if we've got a completely transparent ordinance and they can't work through the rest of the stuff with us, that's basically, like the word cosmetic. Is it gonna cost them some extra money? Probably. It's business. No, I don't want an ordinance that basically makes it all accessible to them. And it needs to be also, there needs to be a community.
So do you have a provision in there that anything in this ordinance doesn't cover, that comes up, needs approval by the board of supervisors? Period. So if we didn't cover it and it comes up, just comes right to the board, we approve or not approve.
Or approve it with conditions.
Depends on what it would be.
Which that would go back to special considerations.
We don't know.
Right, that would go back, right, it would.
Yeah, that would say, you're not in these areas that are set, or you didn't follow these rules, then they would come and say, I can't meet this, here's what I can do. That's, I think, negotiation, but if the rules are laid out, we can meet those. That's what we told them they're gonna meet. Does that make sense? It does.
See, Colin's taking down notes and he'll bring something else with us and.
We'll see. No, I don't know.
But it's one step at a time. I mean, like I said, we want to have, I think, a clear, concise, well thought out ordinance in place. And it does, Rome didn't happen in a day, guys.
And I think
So,
much like
we'll get there.
generating this document, I think we'll have this discussion again, is because you make tweaks, you make changes, and it brings up other things you didn't think about, and it impacts other decisions you've already made, and you just have to kind of resynthesize it.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm glad, Stephanie, you're putting in this amount of time and effort in this. It certainly helps us to talk to people, that are involved in this. Otherwise, you could make some pretty horrendous ordinances. We didn't talk to nobody that's involved.
You would ordinance
with
yourself
this.
right out of the
Right.
game, yeah. Yeah, staff is, I can't overemphasize how helpful staff is with this whole thing.
Appreciate you letting me be part of it. I mean, we're all looking for the same thing, right?
We're all in this
Put the
together.
rules out the same way,
Yeah.
so that we have something that goes, listen, we know what, we have to tell them too, when they call for water, they call for us. We can tell them this is what your project would have to do. But they're gonna spend money with us until they know exactly what their animal's gotta be.
Got it. We're closer.
Okay, anything else, about the?
One other
ordinance?
thing, I have been in contact with Brian about getting it up on the website as the board discussed last time. So hopefully in the next little bit.
And you'll have your new one. Oh,
Yeah, we'll constantly kind of re-update it. Yeah, plus every time,
People are reading.
when I incorporate these notes into a new document, I'll send that out and then we'll upload it again.
Time often the public asks for copies,
I have extra.
so they make like email supervisor or you, your office.
Sure.
Just a draft.
anything else about the ordinance that, Now we'll move on to, citizens input.
Thanks, Colin.
Thanks, guys.
Anyone here in person would like to say anything? If not, anybody in Zoom land have any input they'd like to talk to the board about? Seeing none, I'll just have one small ending statement, and that is that tomorrow's meeting, we will not have a Zoom link to that meeting because it's just the year-end cash count. So we won't be everybody in here. We'll be going around to the offices counting cash. I know Ty will not be here. You will be here. Okay, then.
Yeah, I'll grab-
So there'll be four of us here.
I'll grab conservation.
Okay.
and,
I'll grab public health.
Solid waste. before I-
Somewhere.
I left them on,
The agenda?
or a folder.
No,
On the cash count sheets.
Okay.
I'll grab the cash count sheet.
Okay.
Stop there first.
Just want people to know that tomorrow that there will not be a Zoom link for that meeting. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Gene. Second by Ty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.